Hello. It is now live. You went to church last week?
Yeah, just a sacrament meeting. I should have stuck around for the second hour, but I didn't.
That was in the Englands, right?
In Liverpool, yeah.
Yeah. Mormon church?
Funny. Yeah, no. So the thing is, so it wasn't regular church just because it was wacky British Veterans Day, and so church was a little different because for one thing we went outside and watched a parade go by of a bunch of I don't know English Veterans Day kind of things, like the local version of the National Guard or whatever was there, and they had bagpipes and drums and police and you know veterans type stuff. And then at 11 o'clock, the whole nation observes 2 minutes of silence. At 11 on the 11th of November on at 11 o'clock, everybody's quiet for 2 minutes. And then so then like they had talks, but the thing that was interesting about Liverpool Mormon ward that I had no idea about, wasn't expecting. As I walked in, the first thing I heard was Brazilians talking, and it turns out that like half the ward is Brazilians.
No.
Yeah, like it's minimum a third, but I think probably close to half the people there were Brazilians that I could see. And even like one of the counselors, two out of the three speakers were Brazilians. It was
What are
all
they doing in
Brazilian.
England?
I don't know. I don't really know. I think just getting the hell out of Brazil.
I guess I should have expected that. Most of the people in Mormon church in England would be non-English native, I guess.
Yeah. No, that's really
Although
how that was.
watching Nemo's channel, you thought maybe there was some more rando English people who are Mormons or whatever.
Well, because he's from like London area, isn't he?
No idea.
I think so. I'm not sure. Although I don't know, England, it's bizarre how small it is. Like, because I mean, just area wise, like Great Britain, the island of Great Britain, is roughly the same area as the state of Utah. Like, that's the whole place. Like Liverpool to London was like 2.5 hour drive if you go straight there.
Was there traffic crazy?
Yeah, London in particular. I mean, driving everywhere was bonkers, but London, like, I want to go back for sure. But if I ever go back, I'm taking the train. Like, we
Mm.
drove into town, we drove into Soho, we parked in Chinatown, and just parking was £9.75 an hour, so about 12 or $13 an hour, just to park a car. And then just to drive in, so like there's this congestion zone, they call it, which covers a large section of the middle of London. And just to drive into the congestion zone cost £17.50.
Oh
And
my God.
that's if you have an ultra low emission vehicle, which I did. The rental was a little Fiat 500 hybrid, so it counted as like low emission. But then like if you have a truck and then all these other things that cost money, and then here's the other thing where like, and I'm probably just screwed on this, I don't know. I sent them an email, but and it cracks me up because I grew up reading all those books, like Douglas Adams and stuff like that. And, the movie Brazil, all this stuff. And they all make fun of the legendary British bureaucracy. And this thing that's so stupid is because, like, the hotel in London that we stayed in was in a place called Hounslow, which was a few miles out of central London. Um, and it was outside of the congestion zone. So, like, the day that we get back to the hotel after driving into London, I go online, I go to the London congestion charge thing, and in my jet lag addled brain, I put in the 8th instead of the 9th. And then and they're closed on the weekend, and then they're like done by 4. So like by the time I ever got around to calling them, like they were closed, I couldn't talk to them. You have 3 days, and because I paid the wrong day, they're going to charge the rental company who was going to charge me another £17.50 and a £90 penalty.
Oh my gosh.
And I've sent them an email like, hey guys, seriously, like I paid the wrong day. Can you guys just move this around? And they're just being famously British about it. But so about London traffic though, like so from Soho, the Chinatown parking garage to the hotel was 9.9 miles according to GPS, and it took us more than 2 hours to make that distance in the car. It was completely bonkers, but it's also hilarious
Unreal.
that just following GPS, because the thing about England I mean, there's so many things that's nuts about driving there, but one big thing that's nuts about it is not only are all the roads tiny, but like highways don't go into town ever. They only go around the town. The cities are all just a bunch of little roads. And so like driving into central London is just driving through neighborhoods. Like just endlessly winding through little neighborhood after little neighborhood after little
And
neighborhood
that's the way
after
to
little
get
neighborhood.
there.
And that's the only way in because like yeah, there's no highway into London. Um and so like on the way out, we're going along, just follow the GPS. And my son's like, hang on a second, that's Buckingham Palace. And we were literally drove right up to it where you can either take a left or a right, and just
You took
happened
the
to,
neighborhoods to Buckingham Palace.
yeah, just took the neighborhood and like there we were at Buckingham Palace. And it was just on the way back. But yeah, like London is completely bonkers. I definitely want to go back, but absolutely taking the train. But Hounslow, where we stayed, we stayed there a couple of nights. I walked around there a little bit one night, and that was nuts because I even looked it up afterwards. It's like a very immigrant place, even by London standards. And boy, it really was. Like, I was already working on a joke about this that, in England they call French fries chips, and they call elevators lifts, and there they call Mexicans Turkish people. Because everything is just Turkish. I mean, there's a lot of other Asians they call them too, but that's what I noticed is like every little shop pretty much was Turkish. Like there was a Turkish grocer by the hotel I stayed in Liverpool. All the service staff you saw anywhere were Turkish. Everybody running a little shop or a gas station, they were all Turkish. It was crazy.
Turkish, I would have thought they. I mean, usually I hear people complain about Indians or Muslims. I guess Turkish could be
I
Muslim.
guess they kind of count them all the same thing. Because, like, and there was definitely, like, because, I saw, like, for example, you see Arabic in a lot of places. In fact, there was a billboard in Arabic and Arabic only that I drove past too fast to read and figure out what it said. But that was strange to see. And that was on the way to Yorkshire, which is, I don't think a famously.
I think there's a couple towns I've heard that are completely overrun. They're kind of smaller towns. I've heard Birmingham's completely overrun.
Well, Birmingham is huge. I mean, I didn't go there. I went around it. But Birmingham is the second largest city in England, so it's like a gigantic place.
So it's going to be the big city.
Well, I sent that. I mean, there's that BBC article just a week ago was talking about. I think where is it? I don't want to get the name of the city wrong, but some place where like it has a large Pakistani community, and the article is about how like the cousin marriage is going down there, much to everyone's relief. But
I saw
there's
those
your
things talk about that.
that's your multiculturalism, and that's things like it's just funny because like and a lot of people are like, oh, England's full of Turks, and that sounds like a complaint. Like for me it wasn't, because I like to try new things. But see, that was another thing though I noticed about that is because like how I am and with trying crazy new ethnic things. And like so I went to a West African restaurant there and I was the only white person. I went to some Turkish places. I was the only not Turkish person. Like every time I went to like a weird ethnic place,
The English people aren't grubbing there.
the English people, the only exception was there was an Indian restaurant. There was an Indian guy in there, or an English guy in the Indian restaurant. But yeah, pretty much all of the goofy little, I went to a Hong Kong restaurant. I was the only white guy in there, like, and that was pretty much solid everywhere I went. Oh man, the thing that I wanted to tell you about those. The Mexican food situation there is so hilarious and pathetic and sad, and not least of which, because I think I sent you a picture of it. But there's a chain. I didn't eat there, but apparently, like, there's a chain in southern England, somewhere around
Oh,
London, called El Mexicana.
yeah.
And like I was really tempted. Then I decided, like, I don't want to waste their time. But I wanted to be like, did somebody talk to you about your sign? Like, does anybody?
That's funny stuff. Joy says on this Thanksgiving Day, I'm thankful for porch time. It's a weekly island of sanity and sea of never ending crazy. Joy. Well, I hope looks like there's not a lot of people on the live, but I mean, we only ever get like 15 most, but the more people listen after, but maybe the couple dozen randos like us that we have will catch us, the longhousers,
Oh yeah.
on some re-listens or something like that. But yeah, we decided we still just got to do it anyway. My family didn't do any Thanksgiving today. They're doing it on Sunday. Did your family Thanksgiving today?
No, my parents are old and they never were any fun anyway.
They're not Thanksgiving at all.
No, they just stayed home.
Wow.
I mean, for one thing, like, they'd have to get in a car and drive somewhere together, and
Cook a thing, not cook a thing like a family dinner or something.
My mom would have to slice an onion. They're just not gonna do it.
That's funny. Troy, I just got done listening to your podcast with I'll pull it up. Troy did well, I guess one of them was with Clownfish, which was a few months ago, which I listened to, and then just recently he did this one here.
Where's all this coming from?
Oh yeah.
I was just mind my own business.
It was really well. There were two things that were going on there that made it especially bad. So I said on my YouTube channel, I gave a little bit of background about why, because I quit. Right, I left the studio under pressure, but I didn't leave exclusively because of all the attacks on me. I already had a family issue that had me leave the studio for 2 months and move states. So I had left from Utah, moved down to Nevada. Got married, was living in a new house, and had left the project for 2 months.
There was hold on one second.
There's move. In fact, I was going to quit right then, but Avalanche asked me to stay.
So he talks about like quitting and getting out from under it. And I like this thing that got brought up here about Orwell.
To George Orwell's dystopic sci-fi novel 1984, right-wing commentators often use the book's authoritarian Big Brother government as a comparison point in their criticism, likening the fictional surveillance state to real-world equality movement. Among Levitt's other videos are lengthy defenses of both John Lasseter, the Pixar co-founder, and Alex's position at Disney in 2017, after allegations of sexual misconduct, and Nolan Bushnell. By the way, I did not know this was like a bad thing you could do if you thought well of Nolan Bushnell. The Atari co-founder, who Kotaku's reporting found to have fostered a toxic work environment from women,
which is complete garbage. Oh, that still makes me mad to this day.
I agree. In some of his videos, Levitt expressed support for Gamergate, movement that fostered harassment against women and other minorities in the game industry. Criticized Anita Sarkeesian's Tropes Us. I have never heard of that.
I mean,
I've heard of her. I don't know what that is. Uninformed
Tropes versus women.
Position. Levitt discussed his opinions on gamer.
It's funny that, like, just the irony that, like, in this thing where they say, oh, right when people bring up Orwell and they bring up 1984, and then later on in the article they pull a total Orwellian 1984, where, like, it's just a fact that Gamergate fostered harassment of women, which is like, no, it didn't. No, it didn't. No, it didn't. It never did. That was only ever just a lie that you guys keep repeating. And just like Orwell said, you've made it true just by saying it so many times.
He talked a little bit about John Lasseter getting Me Too'd out of there. And I guess the extent of it that anybody knows about, this is the most I'd ever read as well, is that he gave hugs. Then some of the hugs lasted long or something like that. I don't know.
What did you see? Like, because you sent a thing about, like, Axl Rose. But just in this last week, was it Puff Daddy?
Yeah, Puff
That-
Daddy's getting accused of something.
But no, but it came out, and then the next day there was news that he settled.
Nuh-uh.
Yes, and then just today, who was it? An NBA guy? I don't know, but like they're coming fast. It seems right now.
Well, I mean, I think that Danny Masterson thing kind of opened up a floodgates that, like, if you can just like look, let me pull up Axl Rose's thing here.
Yeah,
If it opened up a floodgates that you can just make any random accusation from Axl Rose's accusation is 34 years old.
1989. Yeah.
Where'd it go? I thought I had it saved. And in the middle of it, do you know who else is getting accused out of nowhere too? Is Eric Adams, the mayor of New York.
Oh yeah,
Run afoul of
that's the
himself.
other one. And I mean, and he's a lefty too.
Yeah. Dang, I thought I had a picture of Axl Rose's thing here, but I put it on the other one. Yeah, he's getting completely me too'd. Oh, I know what it is.
Oh, there's Danny Alves. That's a soccer player, but he's facing 9 years in prison.
What's his for?
Same thing. He was accused of sexual assault at a nightclub years ago. He's a Brazilian soccer player who was played at Barcelona for a long time.
And it was long. How long? Like,
let's see. That was a few years ago. That's not a bajillion years ago.
so there could actually be witnesses. I mean,
yeah, maybe. Also, that's things like how often these things that's things because like the Neymar guy, because like I don't know if you remember that one, but Neymar got accused, and then he actually had video that showed that the girl was lying, and it's kind of funny because like that was news, but then that also just kind of disappeared. Like nobody brings that up. Like, hey, and don't forget that time when it just so happened the wealthy sports star getting accused had the dirt and could prove that the lady was totally just money digging and willing to destroy somebody's life for it. Let's see. No, that's about racism in soccer.
yeah, I swear I had the visual of an actual thing. Oh well, it's just a visual. It was 1989 that he got accused of, and then random accusations. The Danny Masterson thing had to have opened that up to the people. Say, hey, I can. I was always wondering with that whole Me Too movement where the rock stars and the rappers were and all that. Like it had to have been coming, but maybe it's because they just thought, long ago, and I don't have any.
Jamie Foxx.
Jamie Foxx.
That's the news is from yesterday. Or just earlier today. Jamie Foxx accused of sexual assault at NYC rooftop bar in 2015.
Nuh-uh.
He's being sued by a woman saying he sexually assaulted her at a restaurant in New York City 8 years ago.
It's so funny because like you think the Me Too stuff kind of got tamped down and people like thought better of it and maybe no. And no, it's still just rip roaring there with an undercurrent. Here it is. Eric Adams accused of sexually assaulting woman in 1993. Freaking unreal.
The only people it doesn't stick to is Joe Biden.
You just gotta have the right politics, man. That's usually how it is. But
I mean,
I don't know. It stuck to Al Franken all those years ago, although his was kind of dumb if you look at it in hindsight. But
that's things because that's Al Franken was accused of making a joke, literally, like because he wasn't accused of actually doing anything. It's that he mimed honking the sleeping girl's boobs, and it was just super funny because she was wearing a bulletproof vest, and the whole thing was just completely surreal. And he's a comedian, and it was a funny picture, and that was enough for them to oust him. It's so funny, like the people that they sacrificed. Because I mean, first off, he's one of the only good senators that the Democrats had. Like he's the only guys that I think was like genuinely honest and well-meaning and not there for purely Machiavellian reasons. And they sacrificed him for making a joke. He didn't even actually touch her. He just mimed it. And that was enough. And then meanwhile, that's things like with Joe Biden, because like for one thing, the accusations came out at the time. And then we have that whole recording of her mom calling Larry King's show and talking about it, so there's
Yeah.
way more evidence of that than most of these things. But
Those don't
what?
matter. Plus, he has weird stuff with his niece or whatever from the Hunter Biden release.
Oh yeah, that
showering
whole
with her when
face.
she was older. But what you
Ooh,
gonna
weird.
do? We're just now in a whatever system this is. But Eric Adams, they say the reason they're going after him is because he ran afoul with them by speaking up against the immigration stuff. Now all of a sudden they're going to start pulling up all the random whatever old stuff to get him. Meanwhile, this thing happened.
This.
John Podesta's
Oh,
friend who
you're
debunked
not supposed to
Pizzagate
laugh
was
at this,
arrested
but
for raping toddlers. Hmm. There's been a couple of them. There was another one who was a part of. He was a part of Washington or something. He just got arrested like last week on child trafficking porn type stuff. But
yeah,
it's all just conspiracies, I guess.
I mean, I don't know. It is the dumb meme, but I'm starting to wonder more and more about the postmodernists. Is it they really are just perverts? They're just looking for
I guess so.
it's
Yeah.
all just like you said. I mean, you made that. I think somebody that you forwarded the meme about how it's all only ever been about diddling kids ultimately.
Yeah.
Nobody knows
Let
it.
me tap the sign again.
Yeah,
They've all just been
that
diddling
one.
kids.
Yeah.
Here's the other one. Biden Pentagon official Stephen Francis Hovanek, one of his jobs was to oversee elementary schools for the Pentagon. He was just busted in a massive human trafficking thing in Georgia. Well. This is all just stuff that's not proper masculinity. Did you celebrate International Men's Day? What's
I
up,
did
Chris?
not.
Hola, dudes. You didn't celebrate International Men's Day?
I didn't know it was a day.
How
It
how
wasn't
dare
on
you
the
not
news.
know it?
There wasn't a Google. Oh, it says it on Google. International Men's Day and Truthsgiving. Oh, that's your duck sign. Never mind. I was looking
It
at the.
is. It was International Men's Day every year on the 19th of November. This is GQ honored it by making Kim Kardashian the man of the year.
How? Why?
Hi, I'm GQ man of the year. Kim
But how's
Kardashian.
that? That's not even because she's
And
not
they
trans,
took a picture of her wet eating Cheetos.
and she's.
Because this year's recipient of the Man of the Year award is none other than Kim Kardashian, and they're not wrong.
But okay.
You're down. You're not down.
I can't even make sense of it in any kind of meta way. It just I don't know.
It's just whatever gets dumb headlines for being irritating. I think they try to get
I
headlines
guess
for
that's
being
all it
irritating
is.
as much as anything else. I mean, listen to Troy's couple podcasts. Listen to him on Clownfish and that other one that I copied in there. He talks a lot about it. It's just the stupid, slimy media just trying to get whatever gets clicks for their failing industry as well.
Kim Kardashian is one of those things where I have never followed Kim Kardashian in any way. Everything I know about Kim Kardashian is that she's famous and that she does things and they're in the BBC, they're in the news, and this kind of thing happens. And and I don't think that's. I mean, most men I know, I think, don't know anything about Kim Kardashian. Does anybody
I
follow
think
her?
that's it. She did the sex tape thing, then she dated a bunch of basketball players, then married Kanye, then turned that into some sort of Instagram money thing because she just sold crap makeup on the side,
But she's a billionaire now, right?
because of this, just selling makeup.
Good Lord.
It could be whatever crap makeup there was.
Well, because the other thing is because I've never I don't. She's not particularly attractive to me.
Oh no, I mean, I think to some people there was. I think I don't have general attractiveness taste because I remember when everybody was all crazy about Angelina Jolie. I was like, really? But
yeah, I kind of have the same thing with but Kim Kardashian especially. I mean, South Park. I thought they really hit the nail on the head with it. Bitch, tell me again that you ain't no hobbit.
So funny. But I got
That
some stuff lined up about that. There's this TikTok channel everybody should check out called Ho Math. I'm gonna pull up some of his videos in a little bit here. But it's not just making fun of that stuff. It also kind of talks about some of the other junk. I'm not. Jane Cobbs is not attracted to crazy. I guess there's that too. Although I don't know. Kardashian, the dad, was one of OJ's lawyers, and then they turned that into a mega industry of hussies, I guess. And I don't know.
Well, because how does it work? Their dad, the mom was married to a guy who defended the OJ, the Kardashian. That guy
Yeah.
died of cancer, and then the Bruce Jenner
Jenner.
married Bruce Jenner was the stepdad.
Yeah.
Oh.
What was, and then got divorced. No, just kidding. Then,
And
well, I
then
think he did
became a
too.
chick
Now is
because Mama Kardashian isn't a lesbian.
he's dead. What's that? He's trans dead. He's dead named. That name died. You know.
Yeah. Caitlyn.
So I checked out on ChatGPT what it says about International Men's Day. What do you think International Men's Day?
Promoting gender equality.
International Men's Day is significant for several reasons. Promoting gender equality. Yeah. I like this one. I am the aims to promote gender equality by addressing issues that affect men, as well as fostering a better understanding of challenges men face in various aspects of life. It contributes to a broader conversation on gender equity and inclusivity, highlighting men's issues. The day provides a platform to discuss and bring attention to specific issues that disproportionately affect men, such as mental health, toxic masculinity, workplace challenges, and stereotypes.
Yeah.
Fostering positive role models, mental health awareness, reduce stigma and promote well-being, building stronger communities. Oh man, we worry about you so much. Complimenting International Women's Day. It's important. It's recognized that both men and women face unique challenges, encouraging positive change. By acknowledging the importance of International Men's Day, there is an opportunity to inspire positive change in policies, attitudes, and societal expectations, leading to more inclusive and equitable society for everyone.
Yeah,
It is essential to approach International Men's Day with the understanding that does not seek to undermine the importance of addressing women's issues, but rather strive for a more comprehensive and inclusive dialogue on gender-related matters. Thank you, ChatGPT 3.5. Now we know. So we got to work on this toxic masculinity.
AI works by like combing the internet, and so that's the people who talk about International Men's Day. That's how they talk. That's what AI has synthesized together for us.
Pretty much, yeah. And I think that's a pretty good thing to think about there. You know, we there must be a way for this to victimize me.
Oh man, that was a thing that happened in Liverpool. That I think I messaged you guys about it, but
yeah, I want to talk more about it.
Here's that, but just that was so hilariously ironic to me was because I went to the Liverpool Maritime Museum, because they had, you know, each floor was like a different thing. They had a Titanic exhibit, which is the main reason I went, but they had a whole floor dedicated to the international slave trade. And one thing that was funny was that like they had all these signs, you know, that talked about like, you know, the purpose of the exhibit, and it was that typical kind of woke shit. And just one of the things that said, it's like, you know, and how Europeans benefited from it. It's like, okay, but not just Europeans benefited from it, stupid. You know, like the black Africans that sold the slaves, like they took the money. Like,
did you see the thing just this week that there was a whole Science Journal article released that black people were most affected by the European Black Plague?
I'm sure it's true, because yeah, like, cause you know, I sent you guys those books, you know, like that the you know, they had the Candy and Anti-Racist Baby, and that also that book about like, what is it, like white psychosis?
Yeah,
you know, that book, like that wasn't like a library or a bookstore. That was the gift shop, the Liverpool Maritime Museum gift shop. That's what was in there. But so I was up there, going through the whole slave museum, and and because and they had like gender neutral bathrooms, and everywhere you went there was the LGBTQ stuff. These are museums that are run by people who went to college, so that's all there. And so like there's all these messages about dismantling systems of oppression. And the, and the irony was that while I was there was literally busloads, like
Of systems
school
of oppression.
busloads of teenage girls in burqas.
Oh my goodness.
And it was also just crazy just because like to hear like these little girls speaking like these Harry Potter accents coming from under a burqa, but like that was what I experienced. But it's just so funny because like these these girls in burqas are being walked through this whole thing about like tearing down systems of oppression. It's just like, huh, go figure. Like how this is a paradox, obviously. Like this is strange. But yeah, that museum was cool. And I had an experience there that was just relating to like atheism and how we don't believe in nothing. Because in the Titanic Museum, they had just a few objects that had been salvaged from the wreckage, and it was like some tie pins and a sink and stuff. But like, just funny, like even as an atheist that don't believe in nothing, like I just had this kind of ooh kind of
You felt the spirit.
I felt the spirit looking at this shit that went down with the Titanic. It was just, there's something magical about it. But, I also thought about like, because like I have no way of knowing that that's true. Like they could have put anything in there and said like, oh, look what we found at the bottom of the ocean. And like, I wouldn't know any better, but I take their word for it. And still it was just kind of, ooh. And it's the same thing, going like into 800-year-old churches there. That's definitely an ooh kind of place.
Speaking of Men's Day and all that stuff, have you ever like considered what a load of BS Rose was in the Titanic movie? Like, that chick ran around on her fiance, then she got alpha widowed, which is the term of like once you sleep with the man who's the alpha man of your dreams, you're forever a widow to that man, no matter what, if they die or not. And I remember even being like a young Mormon watching that right before my mission. It actually played a part in me struggling with religion because I watched it and that they ran around together on a boat one night, had a bit of a mishap, boinked, and then he sank down the drain. And then all those years later, at the end of her life, after showing her having a great life, she dies. And when she dies, she goes back to him. And I was like, what? And I grabbed my Bible, like, what's the Bible say about this? And I remember sitting there looking at it, reading it. And I got really tripped out because I had a friend of mine who was a young woman, maybe 19. She was a little bit older than our class. She'd married a dude kind of in a fast Mormon way, like knew the guy under 6 months, married him. And then he got like a brain tumor out of nowhere and died within 6 months of that. So she knew this guy under 1 year and was 19 years old. And I was like, and that's like eternity for her now. It's like that one guy, like, what does she go and do now? How does she do the rest of her life? She probably doesn't even know who that kid was, like all these years later. Yeah. And I remember that whole thing. I sat there and would read through the Bible to try to make sense or understand it. Because even the Bible beyond like Joseph Smith stuff kind of talks about, and this wife goes unto the brother, goes unto that wife, goes unto this and that and the other.
Yeah, the Levite marriage thing.
I listened to Dan Carlin did this 2-part episode. He just released the second part on all the nuttiness of the Vikings around like 800 to 1100 AD type stuff. And he went through this whole thing about this ritual that a chieftain's wife went through after he died. And their ritual was she banged everybody in town and then they stabbed her to death. And I was like, well, that's pretty good. Yeah. The Vikings. It was on Dan Carlin's most recent podcast about the ending of the Icer. And that whole podcast is about how the Vikings slowly all became Christianized. And little by little, that helped them to conquer England by becoming Christianized. The Bible says no marriage in heaven. I don't know. I just remember there's some verses that I reread trying to make sense out of, and it said something about like when the woman dies, she goes to the brother or something like that. Yeah,
there's the Old
stuff
Testament Levite thing, but then later on,
you
like,
probably know better than us, Christopher. But I remember just reading in there, and then
well, like,
of
that's
course
like,
the Mormons have their stuff. But then if you get into asking questions, like I went into my president. I remember I was so irritated about it. I went to my president and asked him about it, and you know the line. "It'll our wicked self out in heaven, young squire." And it was just irritating to me. Steve says the girls in his family know about the Kardashians. I assume that is true. I bet you the ladies know all about it. Studies show that men's testosterone levels have been declining for decades. Source? My brother in Christ, you are the source. New study of over 4,000 men suggests that viewing masculinity negatively is linked to lower mental well-being. Challenging the idea that masculine traits are inherently harmful. The research indicates that positive perceptions of masculinity, including, well, I was going to get to that because Jonathan Streeter made a post in the Thoughtful Saints thinking about positive masculinity and the Lord of the Rings. But first, not only, I saw this thing that like if loan forgiveness was given, like 70% of the loan money out in the world, like that would be a totally like female thing. And that's why some people go push it because we need to do this for young women. Like 70% of the loan debt in the world's female.
like overall, or
Yeah.
just in schools, student debt?
No, just
overall,
like loan debt, like any sort of a student loan debt is 70% of it's owned by females. For every 100 females who earn a master's degree, there are 65 males who earn one. So that's kind of a proof of that. For every 100 females who are wounded in action in recent wars, there were 5,026 males who were wounded. I am actually surprised it's that low. Anyway, Jonathan made this post in the Thoughtful Saints, and I also wanted to highlight one of the first responses to it by Dennis Lang. What do you think? Something like this. But he was going over thinking about like the positive male role model ideas, and he's looking at Frodo. Frodo has a trust in the wisdom of others, resilience, independence, not wanting to burden others, naivete. Sam's selflessness, wanting to take on and relieve the burdens of others, optimism, caution, skepticism. Boromir, power through strength, patriotism, aggression, protective impulses, decisiveness, living up to the history and tradition. Faramir, thoughtfulness, learning from history and tradition, wisdom, caution. Denethor, those are the two old crappity kings. Despair, nihilism, aggression, judgmental arrogance, unwillingness to change from his own course, unwillingness to take counsel. So these are fathers and leaders. So they're toxic masculines. Theoden, willing to take counsel, willingness to change, repentance, courage. Theoden's like boomer, worm-tongued boomer, whatever guys, like they take all, but they can repent. Gandalf, wisdom, action, seeing and building, potential in others, encouraging and strength of others, value, tradition, sacrifice. Saruman, jealousy, greed, ambition, ruthlessness, exploiting others, discard, tradition. And Aragorn is all the best parts of all the above and all the worst parts of all the above, and hate. It's just said some of his quick impressions of thinking of the positive virtues of masculinity. I don't even know if he knew it was International Men's Day. Maybe it was just the spirit. It was the spirit. Dennis Lang comes in with the. I know you're supposed to stuff in these groups, but I think
so if the church opens up ordination for women, what sort of archetype of masculinity will that be? What?
The Lord of the Rings has absolutely nothing to do with the priesthood. Not only archetype of Jesus Christ.
Oh, God damn it, Dennis.
Jonathan just gave me a kind of nice answer. I don't know. I'm not interested in that. It's so funny. Like you put some like long thoughtful thing on some post, and then you get just a turd biscuit in there.
Well, it's also because it's typical
like,
feminist crap.
Why would you comment?
Because one of the typical feminist Kafka traps that they always put you in is they say like, "Why are you recentering men?" Yeah. But that's also again iron law of woke projection. Like that's what Dennis is going to do. It's like, well, how can I make this about women?
Yep.
Like that's
So
The first thing out of his mouth, literally.
when I was in grad school, I've talked about this a little bit before, but we were all getting pushed to have like kind of your main focus of what the thing was going to be, and you were going to be an expert in this and that and the other. And at that time, so long ago, I started doing what was called masculinities because at first I thought the idea of it sounded interesting, but of course, I really quickly found out that masculinities was feminism. It was just feminism,
Yeah.
but we're going to look at the guys through feminism, and it's 100% what it was. That's not even mincing words at all. It was let's look at let's just look at the men through a feminist lens and call it
Yeah.
masculinities.
Yeah, well, that's one of those things that I point out all the time is that like feminists talk about toxic masculinity, they don't mean masculinity that is also toxic. They just mean masculinity. Like they're not it's that masculinity itself is the thing that's toxic. And again, like they're sneaky in their wording, like always, because like your typical liberal that's trying to rescue the ideas and make them fit liberalism goes like, well, they're talking about bad behavior that men sometimes have. Like, no, they're not. They're not just talking about that. They're saying that it's toxic to be masculine.
Jane says his favorite black pill guy is Aaron Clary. Just came out with a book called A World Without Men. You know how like you remember that thing at Evergreen? That whole thing was that they were supposed
Yeah.
to be like doing a walkout of like, what's a world without BIPOC people? But the only time that any of those like little walkouts of what's the world without this or that ever would really fall apart quick is the world without men one that somebody pointed out. I mean, I saw the Honey Badgers point out the same day of International Men's Day is also International Toilet Day.
Yeah.
And some people are like, obviously going to do that. And then obviously just out of nowhere came Transgender Day right around the same time. But Toilet Day is actually a huge thing that you should be thankful to men for, that we're not running around swimming in our own dump.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that, not a lot of women jump at working in that world. New York Times article says that navel gazing and counseling aren't helping teens be less depressed. I agree with that. I've seen Jonathan Haidt post a lot of stuff on that recently too.
Yeah.
Little this diversity inclusion stuff has a limited timeline. I agree, but when it's going to blow up, I mean, I sometimes think the only thing will make it blow up is war, but looks like we'll get a big
Yeah. No,
at
like
some point. So happy Thanksgiving. Thanks, Maple Lake Mountain. More book reviews. It's been a while. How you guys doing? What is Steve? How you doing, Steve? It's been a minute too. Doing good. How are you? He's talking
he's
with
gonna be in
Christopher
Utah.
Rice. Awesome. He's around here.
Mormon Book Review says he's going to be in Utah next month.
Oh, sweet. Sweet.
That's Christmas time.
What was I going to pull up on the men? Anyway, I wanted to get into some home math. Look at this. More female teachers run around with their students and stuff. Let's see. Oh, there was Nazis marching in Madison. Bad news. That's a whole different subject. Anyway, let me just show you these two things before I get into home math.
Oh, math.
Yeah, it's funny stuff.
I caught up on Curb Your Enthusiasm on the plane.
All the way through? I've been rewatching it myself.
Not all the way through, just the new season. They only had season 11. But the very last episode is called The Mormon Advantage and features.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, like I was kind of hoping for a better joke there, but yeah, it was all right.
So I saw this post in an ex-Mormon, atheist, and agnostic. It's okay to be Mormon. What do you think they said about that? I didn't pull any of the comments.
Oh,
There's 66 comments already.
Jeez.
This was one of the answers. But cool. I love this or whatever. I don't know if that's whatever it's being dokey, but all those people putting everything into Pixar is cracking me up. I think it's funny everywhere. But
I've seen some good ones for sure.
Yeah. Let me see. I'm going to show you this home ass guy. Hold on.
Catholic Mass.
Who's at Catholic Mass?
Risto mentioned Catholic Mass. So I did go to the Liverpool Catholic Cathedral, and I went inside, and they were having some kind of service, and it wasn't a mass, but like I walked in, and literally the first words I heard is, "I was announced, or like I've been the diversity and inclusion coordinator for 9 months now." Like literally the first thing, and they're like, "Yeah," and the whole thing. I'm not even sure what it was, but it was all just dripping in woke shit. It was kind of amazing.
I started watching the new season of Fargo.
Oh,
And
I
right
haven't
in the
watched
first
any
10
seasons
minutes,
of Fargo.
right in the first 10 minutes, the whole thing's about, oh, she's got a trans daughter, and the trans daughter's at the school board meeting, and the school board meeting broke into violence because of the books that were being chosen for the school board meeting. And it didn't go much more into that, but like right off the bat, I'm like, oh, great. When did they write this? 2019. And it says it all happened in 2019, but you just kind of got a feeling of like, and then every single thing in it is John Hamm's in it playing just like the hokiest old, I'm a sheriff and I like my toxic masculinity and my Christianity. That's who I am. And yippee-ki-yay. Although we got to come back to it. I don't want to skip the stuff. He said he went to Mormon church. I want to come back and talk more about just your general England stuff. And I don't know if you want to talk about this. It's one of the reasons I kind of wanted to focus on International Men's Day and not Truthsgiving, which is the reason I put Truthsgiving is a bunch of online activists said we should change the name of the day to Truthsgiving.
Talking on the subject of Orwell.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
like,
I want to talk about, I don't know if you're comfortable. You don't have to, you want to or not, but what the crap is your kid doing in England? And do you want to move there?
He got kidnapped. He got kidnapped, basically. Like, I mean, even just the family law system is obviously just pathetic. Even at its best, it's terrible. And it is ridiculously anti-male, and it's outrageously expensive, and it's filled with all kinds of just Kafka-esque nightmares. And like in my case, I didn't even get that far into it because my ex-wife was able to cheat so easily, like because the first thing she did is she illegally filed for divorce in another state where she wasn't a resident. But every little thing costs hundreds of dollars, and I was paying for it myself, and I didn't have the money anyway. It was all a big mess. And then, because I guess this thing I found out, I didn't know. I don't even know. I didn't never knew how she ended up in England, but apparently at some point she took a vacation by herself, where she met some Englishmen, and they
That's how
fell
that
in love.
happened.
Apparently, yeah. And he's a Jehovah's Witness.
He's been a pretty decent dude, though. Like he was one of the ones who encouraged your kid.
Yeah, I guess so. Like, because I mean, I didn't talk to either of them the whole time I was there. I saw my son. That was it. I saw one of his half siblings from the window. But like I'm not in any hurry to see them. Although I thought it was funny
Did you
because
spend with your kid?
quite a bit. Like, because he had the first week off, and like we road trip. We spent a couple of nights in London, and road tripping around. We saw Stonehenge, which is cool. Like that is a weird place because the Salisbury Plain is just this endless green grassy plain, and then in the middle of nowhere, fucking mysterious giant rocks that were.
So not to put on a spot, but I hate to tell people this. This is a big deal. This is the first extended time Flip's getting with this kid since his kid was.
It was the first time I spent with my kid one-on-one since he was 15 months old. When he got kidnapped. That's how that worked. And that's things because I don't know. I'm still kind of processing a lot of that, but really it was just perfectly ordinary stuff. We had a good time. I met his girlfriend, and I guess it was funny because I guess he was really, really nervous. I didn't realize it, but he was really, really nervous about me meeting his girlfriend. And afterward, he was like relieved, and he said so. He's like, "Oh, I'm so happy that went so well." I'm like, I don't.
Do you know what he was nervous about?
I don't know. I'm not really sure, but like because I don't know. Like I made her laugh.
Just think about introducing any gal to your parent.
Yeah, I guess so. But like, yeah, I don't know. Like, because I mean, I think he's still trying to kind of figure out what kind of guy I am. Because it's funny because like at one point, especially when it was when we were driving back from the multi-day road trip to London, coming back, he's like, and he's kind of nervous about it. He's like, well, just so you know, my mom doesn't want to see you. I'm like, good. I don't want to see her. But like,
You felt like it would be like bad news to.
well, just because like, well, look, because I mean, this thing is because I kind of told him like, okay, first off, if it's awkward for her, well, she made her bed, like I, I got nothing to be ashamed of. Like, she's the one who needs to come clean, and like the other thing I told him is like, just like,
how much does he understand that yet, or do you even?
I don't really know, like, because I asked him like, what did your mom tell you about me? And he said, like, he kind of told a story and said, like, well, I asked her once and I don't really remember what she said. And, and I don't know that I'm kind of guessing he probably
filtered, censored it.
Yeah, there's probably more to it than that, but whatever. I mean, because a while ago, even before I met him, I was talking to him online. And I just mentioned, like, do you have questions for me? Like, because I figure you got to be pissed off. And he said, I just want to, I'm happy with how things are now, and I just want to look forward. But I mentioned to him, like, just like, as far as your mom's concerned, like, he better get used to the idea that she's going to have to see me at some point. Because, like, like, if you get married or something, if whatever goes on, like, I'm going to fucking be there. And I'm not going to be the one that's going to make it weird.
Like, you liked England, and that's part of what I want to talk about, is how much you liked it or not.
Oh, I loved it.
I've always, like, kind of thought maybe that'd be a place to move to or something.
No, I definitely want to go. In fact, that's something I need to get back to the guy, because, like, I walked into a wine store there. And just because night and day how the liquor situation there. Because, I work at a wine store in Utah where we're not even allowed to taste the wine. And when we tell people that, their faces, they're just so confused. and I always have to, like, I always tell people, because, like, whenever I tell them something about the DABS, some dumb rule, I always see their face, and I always stop them, like, don't try and make sense of it. Like, I can see that you're trying to make sense of it. Don't, because you're just going to go crazy trying to make sense of it. But no, and I'm in Wrexham, I'm in Wales, and I walk into a wine store, and I open the door, and immediately from across the room, the guy that's running the store goes, "Oh, you're just in time. We're doing a tasting." And he calls me over, and he's like, "Oh, I have some wines." And I'm like, "Oh, great. Do you have a spittoon?" He's like, "Yes, right here." Everything was ready to go. He had a proper spittoon and everything. And I did a tasting of 3 wines right there. And, like, they had a hiring sign, and I kind of told them about my situation.
You still spit them out, don't you? Or did you swallow
I did. Because I was going to drive later that day, so I'm totally pro. Like, I mean, I'm pro in America, and I was extra pro there about not drinking and driving. Like, yeah, just that.
Yeah, you don't want to do that in a foreign country.
I didn't mess around. I mean, because driving is nuts.
How was it? How was it? Did your brain switch over fast enough? Or I would not be able to. I shouldn't drive in a foreign country at all.
I wouldn't let you attempt driving.
I wouldn't let me either.
Because I am into the challenge, and I adapted. Like, by the end, I think I was getting close to being a proper English driver, in that I was being totally aggressive at roundabouts and parking on sidewalks, just like the locals. Because that's one thing that was really hard to use.
Sidewalks?
You just park on the fucking sidewalk there. There's nowhere to fucking park. And so people just park on sidewalks. Like, that was hard to get used to, was just how loosey-goosey they are about parking. Or, like, on the street, like, if you have a small enough car, you just kind of jam in sideways. Like, there's just some of the craziest shit you see there. No, that was like, so much stuff about driving was weird. Like, somewhere, like, going north out of London, like, we were out of London a ways, kind of in the country, and you're on, like, their version of a freeway where it's like 70-mile-an-hour speed limit. There's like 2 or 3 lanes in each direction. It's a pretty healthy motorway. And we come along this row of houses where it's like, it's literally like, there's the freeway. There's like maybe 6 feet of pavement, and then there's the front doors of these houses. Like, they're just on the fucking freeway. And you'd run into, like, little things like that all the time. In one area in Gloucestershire, when we were going down to Salisbury, like, because, in America, like, we see the signs that it's like a silhouette of a deer. And it's like, watch out for deer crossing, or falling rocks, like, watch out for rocks. There were signs that were a silhouette of a tank. And they said tank crossing. And
What?
I was like, I want to be here for the tanks. I want to be here with them. Another great sign though was elderly, and it was a silhouette of a man and a cane pulling his elderly wife, and they're hunched over. The silhouettes are hunched over, and it's like because we have like deaf children at play. They had elderly signs. Watch out for elderly. But yeah, like the left side of the road thing, like was almost instantaneous, and I'm like, okay, it's the other side. It's kind of like like learning Arabic. Like a lot of people think like, oh, it must be so crazy to read the other way. It's like, no, that's actually the easiest part. And like as far as adapting to driving in England, driving on the left side is the easiest part. Everything else about it is nuts because like the roads are tiny. Like there's no room for anything. The roundabouts, some of the roundabouts in particular, are completely bonkers.
How old are the roundabouts? Did they always do that, or is it a new invention like ours?
I think they go back a long ways. I don't know. I wish
hate
that we would adopt a roundabouts. They're better for a lot of
Like,
situations. I think they're better than the dead intersection thing,
they're all over
but
Park
they are
City.
weird. Another thing about England that I don't understand is that because I watched all these videos about how to drive when you're American in England, and they all stress like do not fuck around. There are speed cameras. The police are ruthless. You got to be real on the ball about traffic stuff. Apparently, that's true unless you drive a BMW. Because my experience was in England.
They will discriminate for a wage and stuff.
Well, like I don't know, just BMWs. If I got undertaken going 90 miles an hour on the freeway, it was always a BMW. Like none of them.
What he says is true. Big trucks are issues with roundabouts, and there's all big trucks up in Park City, and it
Oh yeah.
causes-
Well, I don't know
makes
because
us
like
back up, man.
that was another crazy thing. Because like they have semi trucks they call lorries. Because like they have the double decker buses. They're like thin and tall. They
Yeah.
have double decker lorry that are like skinny,
That's so
tall
weird.
lorry. And like, I mean, because like in London, I mean, people get stuff delivered. It's just kind of nuts. Like again, like they do a lot of parking on sidewalks. They do a lot of closing down sections of the street. Like, I mean, London especially, I got that old Futurama joke where when Fry's talking about New York, he says nobody drove, too much traffic. Like that's kind of what it is. Liverpool was not so bad. Although I only drove into the city center once or twice, but Liverpool was kind of fine. I mean, it was just kind of a big old city. Like, I mean, I drove in San Francisco 20 years ago, and that I felt like was a bigger pain in the ass than driving around in Liverpool. But yeah, London in particular, that was fucking bonkers to drive in, even for a guy like me who likes the challenge.
So I am not down with the idea of future self-driving cars for people like you and maybe Jane Cobb, but it should be an option, and I should take it. So beyond like all the driving and stuff, like how is your stay? How is your living? Could you live in that place? Would you live in that place to get closer to your
Yeah.
son?
Oh yeah, no. Oh, that's the thing. It's like so. That's what I need to do is talk to this guy because the wine store people were interested in me. I told them about my, I've got that WSET certification thing, and they wanted to talk to me. So, like, that's kind
For
of all there is
real?
to it. Yeah. In fact, that's the thing. Is like,
How
I said,
easy would it be to? I
the
guess
immigration thing is I don't know. That's the thing I'm not sure. I mean, obviously,
don't you
Turkish
always
people
have
do
to
it
like
all the
pay
time.
transnational tax or something forever?
Well, that's the other thing is because like Americans have to pay taxes on overseas income. That's the thing. Like my son apparently has to do. He has to file like he's never earned enough to where he actually has to pay taxes, but he has to file his taxes in the UK and
Most times, if you're being an expatriate, it's got to be quite a bit of money to make it worth it.
Yeah, well, that's why
their
like
taxes plus our taxes.
that's why like Terry Gilliam, he renounced his American citizenship like in the 80s or something, and it was just about taxes.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he was mad at America. He just didn't want to pay the fucking taxes. But yeah, so fun things though, like one fun thing that I did with my kid anyway, that was kind of interesting was because and also tying together the Mormon stuff, the ancestry thing. Because I found out, news to me, that patrilineally, the Mormons have taken it back even further than I knew before. Like the last time I checked, they'd taken it back to Canterbury in the 14th century. Now they've taken it all the way back to some guy who was born in Burgundy, which is why I'm drinking Burgundy wine tonight. But there was some guy who was born in the 10th century in Burgundy and died in the 11th century in Lincolnshire and was buried at a church in Stamford. And so we went there. We went to the church. The original church is gone. The church that's there now is 800 years old. So he'd already been dead for a couple hundred years when that church was built. But we found a gravestone because that's the other thing about old churches there is that like the churchyard is just a graveyard. And like the little path up
Every churchyard?
pretty much like all the old churches. Yeah, the entire, like even the big places. Like I sent you pictures of some of those.
I mean, I've seen that concept in England, but I guess I just didn't consider that it was just always the case.
No, but like there's somewhere like I mean the gravestones were almost falling into the path. But we found a gravestone like from the 13th or 14th century with Johnson on it. Like might have been one of my guys for all I know. But that was like, and again, like even though like I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God. But that 800-year-old church, because there were tombs inside of it that looked just like shit out of like, Indiana Jones, like the big sarcophagi, not Egyptian style though, but like medieval, and inscriptions in Latin and all this shit. And yeah, that's really something. That was really nuts. The other thing I did, there was one of the days that my son had to work, so I had to tend to myself. It was my last full day there. I road tripped to Thirsk, which is in Yorkshire, which is the real life place of where James Herriot takes place. The All Creatures Great and Small.
Oh wow!
So James Herriot and Derby and all those stuff were fictionalized. Yeah. So I went to the actual place and because the books start out with him like arriving in Derby. He calls it Derby, and he describes a little market. Yeah, and there's like the church tower or the clock tower. And I went to the real place. It's exactly like that. And I went to his house. His old house is a museum now, and I checked that out. Now,
your ancestors' old house?
No. James Herriot's old house.
Great. Okay.
James Herriot.
James Herriot was a real person?
Yeah. So his real name was Alfred.
I thought that was all like kind of a fiction.
No, his real name was Alfred White, and he was a real guy, and like he had to fictionalize everything because as like a licensed veterinarian, there's rules about advertising. Like he would have run afoul of like conflict of interest if he published novels about his practice, something like that.
So he's publishing them while he was working?
I mean, it was later on in his life, but yeah, like he continued to work as a vet even after he had become wealthy on his novels. Crazy. And so like his real little house is there, and they've turned it into a museum. They've even got like an old Austin 7, just like the one he drove. They've got a lot of, his original shit there. And that was totally worth checking out because I'm totally gay for that James Herriot stuff. But yeah, like
mom used to read that to us kids as like a story time, a chapter out of All Creatures Great and Small.
I had a steak and kidney pie with a pint of warm beer.
How was it?
It's good. I mean, kidneys are weird. Like,
would you choose it just not being a? Would you ever choose it just not trying the English thing?
Not often, but like because I've had them before. Because the thing is, like kidney. I mean, if you don't like
liver, you got like taste buds that are cement.
If you don't like liver, you don't like.
Me, and I know
you like liver. Do you like liver at all?
I don't love it. I ate it a bunch on my mission.
Then you wouldn't like kidneys. But what's kind of like I feel the same way steak and kidney pie, the same way I do about menudo. Not all the time, but every once in a while, it's good. Yeah.
All organ meat has that kind of specific flavor, but.
Yeah, that's true.
Jane Cobb likes the steak and kidney pie. So could you live there?
Yeah. Well, yeah. So because one thing for me in particular, it's beer heaven. Just in that.
Haven't you had to cut back on that though? Like you don't drink it so much anymore?
Well, that's part of why it's beer heaven is because mild ales dominate, which like 3.4, 3.5% alcohol. Most of the beer was well under 4% alcohol. Even Budweiser there, because in America, Budweiser is 5% ABV. In England, it's 4.5, and I even got one at the store because I had to try it. It is a completely different beer. It is not the same thing as Budweiser in America, but just in general. So like, not only is beer cheaper, but like they prefer lower alcohol beer, which is what I prefer. Like the lowest alcohol beer I can buy on the shelf in Utah is 4.1%, and it's not very good beer. I mean, it's not bad, but it's just not good. But like everything there are mild English ales, and like they're cheap. There's like some of them were under £3 for a pint. Yeah, the first night I was there, like, because I did like a little Airbnb type thing. It wasn't Airbnb, but it was like that, I guess.
You didn't have any problems with it?
I mean, it was touch and go all the way up until the end. I ended up on the phone with the owner. I booked everything through Expedia, and so it was like, it was one of those situations where it was like, a subcontract through a subcontract through a subcontract. I got it in the room. But anyway, I went into the little, and it was in a shitty part of town, basically. It was not far from the city center. And I went into the pub on the corner.
Decrepit or dangerous?
And kind of both. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, a lot of people were just kind of ooh. But like, well, one thing I looked it up, the crime level in Liverpool is apparently quite low, especially for a city of its size. But I went into the pub on the corner to have a pint while I waited to sort out the hotel thing. And these two old retired scousers, these two old guys, bought me 6 pints between them over the next like 3 hours. And in fact, like the only hiccup I had with any person there was like it was in like my first 20 minutes in that pub. I think some guy was someone by the bar, like, and he just heard an American. He was some guy who was on drugs or something, and he literally came in and threatened to kill me, threatened to cut my throat. And everyone was like, "Hey, what?"
That like the whole time?
Well, no, I could tell the guy was on something. But like that's part of I think why they bought me so many drinks. But like they were so profusely apologetic, and they're like, "Please, please don't let that guy give you an impression of us."
So
that
what else you guys talk about? Did they?
Just
interested in Utah or you?
Oh yeah, no, I think that's what I was talking about was weird Utah alcohol rules. And then of course we talked a lot about soccer stuff. They were particularly mad at me because the team I support beat them controversially not long before I got there. But like it was everything I imagined like a little English pub would be. And those two old scousers, like they were retired guys that lived in like a little retirement village that was down the street. I kept trying to go back to buy them beer, and like I always missed them. And I ended up talking about how things are different there than here. Is like, because on my last day, I'm like, well, I was trying to buy those guys a drink to the barmaid. She's like, oh, they always come in on Mondays. I'm like, well, I'm leaving tonight. And I'm like, well, can I just buy their drinks for them right now? And she's like, sure. And so she just charged me. And on Monday, I'm sure she took care of them. They came in and said, hey, that American guy bought you guys beer. Which, because in America, it's like, no, we can't do that. Or not in America. In Utah.
That guy won't be back here for 2
No, in Utah, it's like, no, you can't buy a drink for somebody in the future. We like
nobody's a regular enough anywhere anyway.
Well, just then the rules like don't even allow it. Like, I mean, at my job, I remember one morning taking a call from what was clearly like an executive secretary for a big shot at Goldman Sachs in Manhattan, and just trying to explain to her like, there's no way for you to gift somebody champagne in Utah.
Really?
Like. Yeah, like I'm like, yeah, you can send them money and say, go pick yourself out a nice bottle. Like that's the only way you can do that in Utah. Like there's just no other way. Whereas like, yeah, in the UK, obviously I never got ID'd, like it's just an entirely different notion there with drinking. It's funny because like I say, like the people there drink a lot, but like like I said, most people drink light ales. So yeah, that for me was absolutely heavenly. I could totally live there in that respect. No, like the downsides.
Think about it. Did your kid tell you how much if he likes it there or not?
I mean, he went there when he was like 7 or 8. So
I mean, just living there in general. But
he seems to like it. Yeah, like I mean, because one thing, his girlfriend is there.
Yeah.
But although like I don't know, he's like a lot of people. Like he's looking at the pricing of housing. And he's saying like, I don't know how I'll ever afford a house. He's looking at that kind of thing. So, like, I don't think he's like totally married to the place. In fact, that's something I kind of been meaning to talk to him about. Like, because like, if you thought about just coming to America, it might be cheaper for you somewhere here. But yeah, like otherwise, like if he was planning on staying there, then I could totally live there. There's one clear downside there is the Mexican food situation is laughably like even when they get it right, they will fuck something up. Like
What is
because
it? What is it like?
well, so because my son, like he he's like me in a lot of ways. His favorite band is They Might Be Giants. He's a gigantic nerd in 10,000 other ways. But one thing he is not like me is that he's very plain and not adventurous in his taste. And he likes what they call Mexican food. And so we went to some restaurant. He'd never been there before, but it was called Rancho. It was just funny because like this restaurant had like some basic Mexican stuff that was like typical like Tex-Mex type fare. And then it had like American like steak and barbecue and burgers and stuff like that. And then of course it had English stuff, fish and chips. And then on the back was sushi. It was the most ridiculous restaurant. But so I ordered fajitas and they were basically correct, except the salsa was sweet.
Like Chili's fajitas at Chili's or something.
Yeah, like basically, yeah, like American sizzling fajitas, that type of thing. They were basically fajitas, except that the salsa was sweet. And that was the one thing that was like, no, guys. Like who said to do this? No Mexican said to put sugar in your salsa. You know, like.
Do you think you saw any like besides the Brazilians you met? Did you see any like Mexicans, Latinos there at all?
I don't think I heard a lick of Spanish. I heard
that'd be like
Arabic,
a weird culture
Turkic.
shock to suddenly not be around so many Latinos in a weird way.
That was actually kind of weird, but yeah, like other than so I heard a bunch of Brazilians at church, and then when I was walking around central Liverpool one day, like there's like the shopping area, I heard a whiff of Brazilians talking, and that was it. Other than that, like I heard Turkish, Arabic, and Hindi and Pashto, and Gujarati and Indian, South Asian languages. But I did not hear a lick of Spanish the entire time I was there. That was weird.
That'd be as much a culture shock as anything.
Especially when I saw like the El Mexicana restaurant. I was like, oh guys.
Well, that's all kick ass, man. I just tuned in and happy to hear Flip talking about booze while I'm sipping in Wild Turkey. He's not just talking about booze, he's talking about booze and also getting a chance to reconnect with his kid who he hasn't seen in a long time.
No, like that all, like, I don't know. Because like I've, for 20 years I was worried that he hated me.
And it's hard to express like what a big deal this is because it was something that we all know ate at Flip daily and nightly.
No, I have not slept this well in 20 years than I have this last week. Like since even while I was in England, like I was sleeping better than I have in decades. And like just in general. And like, I mean, Chris knows because he's known me this whole time, but like I was pissed off. Like just generally, like my threshold was, I mean, I go just so wide all the time.
Like little mini episodes that would kind of come out of nowhere of just like kind of this.
Yeah, no, I was.
Where you just thinking and just.
One was just general PTSD and just like
general. When you realize like the thing that you've been through of having your kid away from you.
But like just in general, since I've been home, like I'm like nothing. Little things that would make and not that I was really that angry. Like I'm not that angry of a person, but it's just hard to describe the relief that has come with this all.
That like situation, I don't know a man on earth who wouldn't, unless they were like a child abandoner who just wouldn't.
Yeah, but no, like because I was a simmering cauldron of rage for nearly 2 decades, and like because there's a small minority of people who are either just empathetic or have been through it or are close enough to somebody who have been through it that they have basic sympathy when you tell them.
Oh, and whereas society in general, whenever you would let feminists,
that's what I was going to say
about the situation.
Society in general, they're reaction ranges from indifferent to suspicious.
Yeah, if a man
Feminism,
had his son
yeah,
kidnapped away, he must
yeah.
have done something terrible.
Feminists are hostile, suspicious to hostile.
They assume you deserved it.
Yeah, like they go from suspicious to hostile. And the more formal training you've had in feminism, the more instantly hostile you are. You know, I mean, because that was a thing that, because, you know, for a long, long time, you know, because like it's a thing that comes up. Like, you know, you work with people and you've been working with them for a few weeks or months, and you've never mentioned anything. And so they ask, like, do you have kids? And I would say something like, you know, on paper, technically, you know, like sometimes I'd just kind of give them kind of a joke answer. He's like, oh, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you got kidnapped. And people would usually respond with suspicion. And so like a few years ago, like I made the conscious choice. Like I started a new job, and like with the break from all those people to all new people, I made a conscious choice. Like, I'm just gonna lie about it now. Like for a few years, like if people asked if I had kids, I lied and I said no. Because I got so used to like, I mean, I don't know. I can't know for sure. But I'm pretty damn sure that like I've missed out on promotions and all
No, I
kinds of
know
career
that. I
investment.
know for a fact that you'd be farther along in life without that stress in your back. And you're doing great now too, especially finding your calling in the alcohol world. And I think you can even shoot to the moon with that. But you would have been a super successful guy long ago had you not been constantly dealing with
You know,
inability to sleep because your
Yeah.
kid was kidnapped from you.
but yeah, no, that was yeah. So that all went really well. Even though like the whole original idea, like the trip was built around the They Might Be Giants concert, but that got canceled. And then when I was
It
there,
did?
yeah, no, it's like, and it's kind
What,
of funny.
COVID or something?
And they canceled all of their remaining shows for the year a few months ago or weeks ago.
Are
I
they
don't know.
having internal fight-ins?
No, it was an undisclosed medical thing. And so they've rescheduled all the English shows for next year, but there's no way I'll be able to do it then at that time.
So your work, you had a stinky den mother who was being
yeah,
crappy
I had
about
a stinky
you.
dead mother's crappy. And so that's things like,
How have they
and for
been
that
since
reason,
you come back? Has she still
well, I
been
haven't
giving
even
you
talked to her. Like I almost, that's things like, I almost never even speak to her. She's so far removed. But no, so the thing is, well,
So I don't know if I'm telling tells out of school, but she was blocking that from you, and we had to
yeah,
go the route of
like
looking into
I had to get
legally
FMLA.
justified reasons for you to go.
I had to get FMLA. I had to get a therapist say like, no, like he needs to go see his son.
And that
And-
wasn't a
and-
freaking workaround either.
Yeah.
It was no way a workaround. It was 100% absolutely true.
Yeah, it was
that this was
but this was lady. It was bureaucracy at its finest. Like that's what that was, just pure bureaucracy. But so one thing that's funny about this They Might Be Giants thing is that so they've rescheduled the shows to 2024, and these shows that they're going to play in 2024 are the 30th anniversary shows for the album Flood, which was originally scheduled for 2020. But first there was COVID, so
32
COVID,
years.
yeah, so like, well, because COVID knocked it out for a year or two, you know, and then they've had all this shit, and so they've been catching up all this time. But anyway, so they canceled, and so
Flood. I mean, Floodies get sneered at by They Might Be Giants fans, but if you look at all of it aside, is it one of the best albums of all time? I mean, it has to be.
yeah, no, it's the best They Might Be Giants album.
Mm.
Like they made a lot of great albums, but that's the best album. But then the other thing that I guess it's like a curse, but while we were in London, I'm scrolling through Facebook and I see that the old 97s have posted a picture of them on the London Bridge. I'm like, wait. And I look and like, hey, they're playing Nottingham. I was supposed to see them at Giants in Nottingham, and I'm like, oh, well, I can't see them. We'll go see the old 97s instead. And the reason that was kind of serendipitous was that the old 97s were kind of the whole reason my son's mom and I even got together, was because I was a missionary in her area and we were having dinner at her house. And I said something just offhanded like, oh, one of my favorite bands is playing in Chico. She goes, oh, the old 97s? I'm like, oh, I didn't know anybody else had heard of them. And that was the only connection that we had made, you know? But then we ended up not even seeing the old 97s because on some shitty country road, I hit a pothole and burst the tire. And hybrid cars don't have spares. I don't know if this was news to me, but
News to me. I didn't know that.
yeah. So we ended up having to wait for fucking guy. I had to pay for a tire. In fact, that's another thing I need to check into is if insurance will cover that because I paid for insurance, so ostensibly it'll pay for it. I don't know, but because of that, we ended up not even seeing the old 97s. But those, I mean, that's things. Even the shit that went wrong, like it was all so worth it. You know, like
I'm happy it happened. Everybody knows Flip's happy it happened. And all those years, I know you were stressed. Like, what if I meet the kid and he hates me or whatever, just thinks I'm a dick or doesn't even ever want to meet me or anything like that. And it's awesome that Eric's the way that he is, that he sort of let it so far roll. Though it's probably like there's probably something deep inside that's got to be worked on, that whether he knows. But
well, so he's
I always knew that like, if he ever got to be around you, he'd like you. You know.
He's supposed to come out. Like apparently, his whole family is coming to the States to visit his mom's family in California in July, and that's supposed to be for like a month. And the plan right now is he's going to carve off a week or so of that and come to Utah. So that's going to be the next phase. But even then, like I mean, we've already made plans to go back to England, like because originally my idea for this trip was we were going to go north and south. Because he wants to go to Edinburgh real bad, and I want to go everywhere. And this trip, we realized, like, it didn't make sense to just drive all the time. So we stayed 2 days. We basically made a trip south, and then the next time I go back, we're going to make the trip north and do that stuff. But yeah, like I don't know, it's hard to talk about, even though it's like the only thing I wanted to talk about for so long. But like. It's nice that like there's nothing really to say other than like, yeah, no, everything is normal now, because for 20 years it was not normal, but now it's normal, like he's working, he's got his girlfriend, he's worried about finding a way to afford a house, working on getting out from, he's living with his parents, like it's all normal now, and it's amazing that it's finally normal after all this fucking bullshit.
It's a huge
and it'll be funny because like someday, Ashley's gonna have to see me, and like I'm just gonna laugh because like you made it awkward. Like
the thing that's so funny about this is like, especially so one of the reasons my heart goes out to that stuff, although I think being a normal human, it would have anyway, just coming across anybody with that story, my heart goes out. I know some women who've been through stuff as crappy, you know what I mean? Like the guy was as crappy, but Jane Cobb's here is explaining that he's going through something similar in his life, which is terrible. But the thing is like, I had a rough experience being married. I didn't have kids, and that was just by the grace of God, who we don't believe in, but we keep constantly talking about it. But I'm more than positive. What's the term? Parental alienation. I'm more than positive. She did parental alienation with dogs to me,
Yeah.
And I'm more than positive I would have lived through that. So it's a little bit easier to have empathy. But then when you start getting that empathy and you look around and you start empathy, I feel like that word's it's been so pooped on by Karen, all those people. But it's unreal to me how it seems like through that world, up until they brought that guy on who was there to crap on Jody Hildebrand, that's the first time in Mormon stories that they're able to like talk about how much parental alienation, especially could come. Like it is if Mormon stories needs to have a Mormon stories topic, I guarantee you there's a well of that, but they can't get into that because you have to re-buy into your feminist priors with all that stuff. But you just become aware of it happening more and more and more and more. And the thing is, like with every sort of situation, stupid identity politics, like you can I've come across guys who it's like, you don't know the whole story, but you could see like why maybe you were the problem. But in most of the cases, I can see like, no, this is a guy who's unfairly has lawfare going against him, and the law is completely on the side of the women, and it's outrageous. And it was even brought up, who's that wrestler from he brought it up on John DeLyn's podcast too. Yeah, kind of like crossover. We brought that up before. That wrestler who was part of the Fox Foxcatcher thing, and then he mentioned how Utah's laws were just so anti-male he couldn't deal with it, and John got off that topic real quick.
Yeah, no, they don't even want to talk about it. No, there's been like a couple of times in my life where like my friends have tried to do, just like the Mormons do, where they try to do the faith rescue things, and in private conversations, and they even make the joke, oh, where has show me where on the doll feminism touched you. And it's funny because I'm like, I appreciate that you think you're being cute, but no, I can tell you. And I always say first thing, like the Duluth model. Have you heard of this? Look it up. And also, like, you understand that, like, the National Organization for Women is a lobbyist organization. You can look up what kind of lobbying they do, like, and
I
you can see
saw
what's happened.
firsthand. It's the main reason we had the falling out with the feminist Mormon housewives. I saw firsthand how empathetic they
Yeah.
were when Flip mentioned this
Oh,
stuff.
yeah. And
And it
absolutely.
was
Like, I hope she keeps your baby. That was the message from
your.
the empathetic
I'll
feminism
drink your
world.
tears. Your tears are tears of my happiness. Type
Yeah,
stuff.
like one of them even says, like, I don't consider a day fulfilled unless I've made a shitty wife beater like you cry. Like these are the things that Lindsay's friends said to me in public, But also, like, yeah, just like, and like you can look up because like there have been people who have proposed things like that would change the law to say that courts have to begin from a premise of 50-50 custody.
Yeah.
Like, sounds like
because they don't now. They start from the
because
Duluth
they
model.
don't now. Yeah, because they don't now. And it's funny because you think like, well, that's equality, right? Well, you should just look at what feminists and feminist lobbyists say about these types of laws and how hard they work to crush them.
And they will
Like,
always crush them because then they also get the gynocentric males on their sides with that sort of stuff. And
no, it's funny because like you can find these groups online. There's all kinds of forums. You can read the stories. And like a super typical story from Utah that you'll read is a guy saying like, I just spent $3,000 over 6 months and 4 court meetings challenging my wife for custodial interference, which is not letting me see my kids according to the agreement, right? And they say like, yeah, I just spent $3,000 and 6 months and 4 court appearances, and all the judge has said is basically a slap on the wrist to my ex-wife and fined her $500 and said don't do it again. Now, the incredible irony is that her only source of income is the alimony. So and then he says like, and this just happens every 6 months, where he's like, I pay her alimony, then I spend $3,000 to drag her in front of a judge. The judge says knock it off, and then charges her a fine that I'm paying. Like, and this happens all the time, and people know about it. And feminists especially know about it because people are always bringing it up to them. And then they turn around and they act the way that Lindsay Park and her cronies, her harpies, act, Like every time one of these laws gets proposed about like, well, why don't we consider equality in family law? The people proposing those laws are smeared as rape apologists and wife beaters. And it just goes out there. That's just how that goes. There's that Canadian guy, I forget his name. There's a Canadian guy who tried to open up a men's shelter in Canada. Like, there's like 2,000 women's shelters in Canada, which is not a big country. There are more Californians than there are Canadians. Like, just to give you some perspective. He tried to open up one men's shelter, and the feminists harassed him to the point of suicide, and then they celebrated his suicide. So that's your feminist empathy for you. Like, that's a famous story you can look up.
Those stories and those things, like, there's just an endless well of them. There's an endless well of them if people ever want to go down.
Well, that's one of those things, especially like with like Mormon stories and all the hay they make about suicide.
Oh,
whereas like,
who's most susceptible to suicide?
Yeah. Divorced men are like the highest demographic for suicide.
Oh, and you got to watch what you say to people so they don't go do it. Oh, but who are the people who you can say the worst things about constantly, even like institutionally?
Yeah.
But
yeah. No, I don't know. It's crazy, but it's over now. I never thought. I mean, for a long time, I was scared that it never would be over. But for me, the
Yeah,
nightmare is
these
finally
weren't
over.
exactly men things, but just a couple of which one do I have it on? Oh, here's the Axel thing. I finally found it.
Oh,
But it's just a picture of him saying the same. He was 34 years ago.
so ridiculous.
Forbes had this. Three ways to center whiteness in the workplace.
Yeah, I'll get right on that, Forbes.
Christmas is a discriminatory holiday.
Wait, oh.
Oh look, this is okay. This isn't on topic, but I love the way Dan McClellan once again flexes his credentials and his awards. Your boy McClellan stands as a minority in his beliefs and research in his field, but he's a goof just like you. On the contrary, I represent the consensus in my field, and I do it well. I just returned from the annual meeting of the Society of Biblical Literature in addition to a glowing panel of review of my recent book. I was given the SBL's annual award for public scholarship. So proud of you. I could never imagine, talking about myself that way. But look at this, the ADL's definition of racism: the marginalization and/or oppression of people of color based on a socially constructed racial hierarchy that privileges white people.
Yeah, okay.
And Elon Musk noticed it. It's one of the reasons he's got to be canceled. Saying only white people can be racist is obviously a racist definition of a racist. Vivek saying, well, all the Nazis, European Jewish Congress, we are appalled and dismayed to see Mein Kampf prominently displayed in Arabic at the public library in Malmö, Sweden.
Really, what that is? Go back.
Hold on. Obscure holiday known as Thanksgiving apparently celebrates obsolete custom called grad. Look at this. This is they have like a polling of the candidates of boards of like those top Texting. Netflix is 99.6 Democrat, Twitter is 98.7, Airbnb is 97.8. It's unreal. Greta Thunberg used to say her goal was to protect the planet from climate change, but she now admits it is to overthrow the whole capitalist system, which she says is responsible for imperialism, oppression, genocide, racist, oppressive extractionism.
I think they call that concept creep.
Let's see here. I want to find.
Stephen Wright.
Oh yes, I'm going to read some of the Stephen Wright things, but my favorite one that he said here, what I think is hold true for like religious things, it's maybe true for me too. A clear conscience is usually the sign of a bad memory.
Yeah, I read that one. I remember that one struck me too.
So this is one of the ones I wanted to bring up from stuff you're talking about. So I'm just kind of chucking through them, so we're kind of a little off topic. But the regularly recurring Anne Frank had white privilege meltdowns on Twitter aren't just the ravings of randos. They're the considered position of a movement that controls schools' curriculum in a growing number in the district. I think, look at this. The people say she was a literal member of the Youth Zionist movement. What were you saying?
I was going to say, like, the way we could know for sure is ask Dan McClellan to weigh in on it.
Yeah. This is the thing, the nation. Let's drop the live Thanksgiving and begin a Truthsgiving. Oh, look at this. Utah teachers wouldn't be able to display pride flags under lawmakers' draft proposal. This guy says this would be a phenomenal bill to pass. Stop forcing this religion on people because it is a religion, make no mistake. A joke for everyone who studies religion for a living.
Oh, my God.
He's such a yet. Listen to this one. So while the women of the this is the Salt Lake Tribune. So while the women of the LDS Church and other religious organizations are following the basic commandments of Jesus Christ, what are its men who aren't so good at that sort of thing or who find it beneath all them up to? That's the headline. The Salt Lake Tribune is such crap. So this is kind of an interesting.
There was a show on.
Go ahead.
I'm trying to think of what it was called. There was a reality show on in England that I watched a little bit of, and it was basically My Deadbeat Husband, but it had a different name. but it was very obviously My Deadbeat Husband, the show, and it was just this kind of shit. But anyway, sorry.
No, that's fine. I mean, it's all along the same stuff of like just assuming women good, men bad everywhere. Do you know Paul? You know Paul Elam, right?
Yeah, he was
He
in
was
the Red
dunking
Pill.
on Rollo Tomasi. He doesn't like Rollo Tomasi. He said Rollo Tomasi's a red pill. He's just co-opted some of the language that predated his books by years and repurposed it to pussy baking 101 lounge lizard shit. I had no idea he didn't like Rollo, but Rollo will talk this way about other people who read Bill too. They infight so much about that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But that kind of surprised me. Look at this. Check this out. Did you know colonialism causes inflammation? Inflation?
It's a flow chart. So colonialism leads to capitalism, which leads to
It's the
supremacism.
doctor. Yeah.
But colonialism also leads directly to supremacism.
Yeah.
And so those lead supremacism is direct arrow to white supremacy and male supremacy. Oh my God, that's amazing.
So the new Malay guy got elected in Argentina. He's
Oh
a
yeah,
super hardcore libertarian, but some people are also suspicious because he was a member of the World Economic Forum. Who knows what? But who knows? Marching Nazis. Well, that one, the only thing you can do is wait and see if it plays out. Because everything he says, I think I had a clip of it. He's already eliminated the board of some board of women's rights there.
yeah.
He already did it. Let me see. I think that might be it. I want to get into. Oh, I listened to this book. If you want a really interesting read, Bret Easton Ellis, who is the this is actually on Dave Landau's recommendation. I heard on his podcast. I listened to this whole book. But Bret Easton Ellis, he's a gay writer. He was the writer of American Psycho, and man, he is not a progressive. And he wrote this book, and this it says white, so you think he's going to like more talk about race issues, but he was more just talking in general about gay people being just caught up in their lives of thinking that they have to be these wackadoo progressives. And it's basically just a 7-hour long of him screaming for them to cut the performance, knock it off, stop it.
I kind of feel like he's talking about like there's my coworker, because like he is very culturally gay, and yet like it's funny because like I've seen kind of like in the cracks that like in a lot of ways he's very conservative, and I can kind of see that there's that a little bit of that in him. That I think that's what he's talking about, where like he feels a need to be culturally gay, even though like there's a lot of things where he is.
There's a good YouTube channel. This is a Dan Palumbo, which is he's a gay guy who's basically just going through. I mean, not like boomer conservative, you know. He's like a little bit more liberal like us, but he's totally conservative otherwise. And really good channel. I wanted to pull up one other thing before because I want to show you this whole math stuff, but I think that there's so many stupid things. Unless you're First Nations, Inuit, or Métis, you are a settler. That settler terminology comes from Fanon.
Oh, that was in that crazy script.
Look at this one. I like this one. This is for all you drinkers out there. In 2013, a Texas man called Rogelio Andaverde was abducted from his home in front of his terrified wife by two masked men with guns. He returned days later unharmed. It was later discovered he staged the abduction himself just so he could go out drinking with his friends. Rogelio. Solidaridad. We feel you, man. Poor Rogelio, man. Look at this. Morning Joe says in the second term, Trump will imprison. He will execute whoever he is allowed to imprison. Execute, drive from the country. Just look at his past. It's not hard to read.
Who said that?
Morning Joe on like all this stuff people are getting like arrested for and kicked off of channels, but then the left says whatever wackadoo thing they want just on morning basic boomer television.
I'm still concerned. That guy that made the joke things about the vote for Hillary tweets went to jail.
Yeah, 7 years.
7 years.
Yep. And there was all sorts of examples of people who did the exact same joke on the other side. It's a basic ass joke.
Yeah.
They had tons of examples, and
No,
they
like,
had no
how
proof of anybody accidentally voting wrong because of that.
like I just in America you'd think like that would be an instant Supreme Court review, whatever.
It should
But
be. I mean, it should be thrown out. Like,
I
it's
can't believe
unreal.
that.
I think I was gonna. There was one other little one, but I want to show you this whole math, dude. I've got some other little funny videos to show, but check this guy out. I've already got the share screen going. I'll go to it here. Share this tab instead. How's the volume? It's good.
This is the standard female delusion chart. It is a tool for bringing balance back to the dating market. The standard female delusion chart is replacing the old chart because there was some confusion. Here's how the chart works. We all know that only a few people are very dumb, most people are average, and a few people are very smart. This creates a shape called a bell curve. It works the same way with other traits like height and attractiveness. Most people are average. I received a lot of constructive feedback about the old chart. I was told that men and women match up evenly, but that's only true in long-term relationships. So this is how a woman would see men that she knows, maybe 25 men at most. The other 4 billion men, however, she would see like this. As you can see, most of us are disgusting. And if you are a male 3 or below, you're this cute little ghost. So generally speaking, men rate women on a bell curve, and women rate men on a Jezebel curve. And but other men overrate women, and they are people, so it balances out. On the other hand, women rate men they do not know as 80% garbage. This model is supported by data from every dating app, by going outside and listening to women when they talk.
It depends on what he looks like, probably. Based on someone's personality, you could really hit it off with someone, but attractiveness is a big player of it. That sounded very shallow.
And by being attractive. If you are a man who has moved past this line, you'll know what I mean. The standard female delusion chart can help keep women out of the sleeper zone, where they languish in emotional neglect, waiting for commitment that was never coming. It works by correcting ludicrous female perceptions, like this. Let's go through the chart piece by piece. You can pause on
The
each
thing
one
about
to
this
let
guy is like he's making a book and he's put this stuff together and he has this like funny way of delivering it and he does all these doodles and stuff too and he's gonna make a whole book, but it is all based off of like real stats and real
Yeah.
them
Well,
sing.
it's one of those things that's so obviously true, like he says, by going outside. You can learn
Yeah.
these things.
This is how men see women, normal. This is how women see men, brutal. This is how women see themselves, delusional. And this is how women rate other women publicly, everyone's a 10, and privately. I'll go into more detail in an upcoming video.
I love that one. Privately, there's me in the top part, but
More detail in an upcoming video on YouTube. For now, feel free to take a screenshot and use the chart yourself. Just
yeah, let me see this one. Hold on.
That's brilliant.
Oh yeah, he's got like a whole bunch of stuff like that. Check
Who's this
one out.
guy? What's it?
It's
what's
called
he
Ho Math, like HOE math. Yeah.
A relationship truly only works when a woman settles for a man that she considers mid.
that would be, of course, mid women settling for mid men.
I used to talk so much about girls who settled, and now I hope to become one.
She used to reach out of her league, and now she is aging, so she hopes to grab somebody on the way down.
Because when a woman does the love with someone she's attracted to and who's at her level, it's a disaster.
Here's where she gets confused. Attracted to and at her level are not the same thing, unless you're up here. It's a disaster because you're going out of your league and he doesn't really want you.
That's when the power dynamic and balance gets thrown off kilter because the man doesn't hold her on a pedestal.
Yes, we all know that putting her on a pedestal is the best way to get what you want. Women love men who are below them.
So she never has the upper hand.
Exactly, because this is what you do when you have the upper hand.
Crazy, delulu, out of control.
Yes, Michael Sartain told me yesterday that's called dread. I was on his podcast. I'm going places.
Because What we're supposed to do as women is just like be receptive.
So now she's mocking the idea of respecting the man that she chose, which is a pretty good idea as long as he treats you well.
Like allow him to pursue us and chase us, like even in a long-term relationship. If you're with a man you're not even really that attracted to, you're gonna do that naturally because you don't give a
So if you're with a guy on your level, he's gonna be chasing you all the time because you're not really attracted to him.
do that naturally.
Look how mad
because
she
you don't
is.
give a But if you're in love, you give so many
Yes, if you're in love, then you definitely do give a lot of those.
These couples you know that have made it work and are together in our modern society have followed this formula.
Remember, she's saying nothing wrong. She is spot on about how to solve the problem. It's just from the female perspective.
Nice guy who the woman isn't attracted to and who she never considered being with finally wore her the down until she said, ugh, fine, I guess. Because the attractive ones are putting me into a crazy, anxious cycle. And now that woman is bored and sexually unfulfilled, but she's secure. At least she has that. Emotional security, the most important element for a woman to have.
The guy
to
talks
ensure
about like, so he's autistic, and he says he's like I'm totally on the spectrum. You know what I mean? So it's so funny, like taking like the like emotional rantings of women, and then just kind of like putting this, like just the guy charted out for you.
This is incredible.
Yeah,
This guy deserves a living
success
from
in a
this.
romantic partnership.
totally.
If you listen to women, they will tell you everything that I tell you. All these women are only attracted to these men. And so these women have to choose between being used and discarded or being sexually unfulfilled. There's the fun choice and the smart choice, and there's nothing anyone can do about it because there's not enough of these men to go around. This is one of the main points that I'm making. Women here need to stop believing that they are here because these guys are not going to marry you. They're going to put you here, and then you're going to be sad. And when you come to these guys later in life, they're going to say, well, where the hell have you been for the last 20 years? And then everyone's sad. Again, this woman has the right idea. The only thing she said wrong was that these guys were on her level. Your level is the guys who will put you on the pedestal.
Oh, if I was a billionaire, I would put that guy on every ad break.
Yeah, he's hilarious. It's just hilarious seeing like these like
Uh-oh.
he totally says like, yeah, I'm totally
I
spurgy.
also need someone to handle me. And only an alpha or a double alpha can do that.
You may have heard rumors of the double alpha. How do we identify him? We all know that alpha means good and beta means bad. Life is exactly that simple. We also know that women have been raising their standards all by themselves. That's why the new standard is now the double alpha.
Women need someone better than them. Smarter than them, fitter than them, bigger than them, more inspiring than them, more successful than them. Otherwise, where's the attraction?
The double alpha is like the regular alpha, but double. That means he's 12 feet tall with a 12-pack, and he makes 12 figures. You may have noticed that I'm using this skin and hair tone marker set. They sent me the wrong product, but I have to make an ad anyway. So there it is. Pretty cool. So what do you do if you're a pathetic regular alpha?
I'm asking. Maybe some women don't mind, but I mind. I need to be inspired by the guy, otherwise I'll eat them for breakfast.
It's 2023, and your options are either be this or get eaten. Buy markers if you like markers.
Yeah, he's funny. He's got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, that's excellent.
And you think the closer you get to a woman, the safer you'll be. And you're wrong. You're in more danger. Because you're being manipulated in ways you don't even know. Think about it. Every guy who's married is fatter than when he started. Every one. You think that's a coincidence? You think men are just so overjoyed with matrimony that they're just walking around with chocolate sundaes? Wow, my life turned out so much better than I thought it would. No. The common denominator is that you're married to a woman. And when you marry a woman, you think she's going to love you and care for you and cherish you, and you're wrong. Her first instinct is to keep you. She's a nester. The woman is a nester. She makes the nest, builds the nest, wants everyone in that nest all the time. Guys are always trying to leave the nest. Always. Just to look for worms or do loop-de-loops. Sometimes check out another nest. Who's in that nest? I'm just looking. And women are aware of this, and they want to prevent it from happening by feeding you all the time. Essentially making you too fat to fly. So if you ever try and leave, you land on the ground and waddle in circles like a fat duck.
I lived that. My ex-wife for sure tried to make sure to keep me as fat as possible, for real. But I'm not gonna watch a ton of this, but this is a guy who went into the details of them claiming that the Black Plague victimized more Black people in England. It's just like terrible, and it's in science magazines. And it's just absolute terrible science. It's unreal. I didn't lose you, did I?
No.
Okay. I'm not seeing on that screen. Jane says, even if women's suicide rates are increasing, we'll never know it because it's socially unacceptable to mention this. Once the economy goes, there'll be more suicides. Yeah, that's not too fun to think about. But yeah, I for sure lived women are trying to make me less attractive on purpose. But what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Did you see that crazy, maybe jumping subjects, because I have other weird little subjects here. Not that we need to go terrible much longer. How much longer do you have?
I mean, doesn't really matter, but food.
You gotta get food. Did you see that really, really mean Jewish guy talking to the Egyptian dude in New York?
I don't think so.
And it turns out that he's some sort of a senator or something. Watch this dude. Let's see. They found out, and it turned out, and this is even all verified, that he was Stuart Selowitz was charged with he got charged, and that's one of the weird things too, is he's getting charged in New York for some sort of speech crime, which is double troublesome. But listen to how this guy talks. But he is, let's see, he's been caught doing multiple stuff. I have it listed somewhere, but he is actually like I'll find it while you're watching it. He's actually in the U.S. Senate in some way, shape, or form. Can you hear it?
Really? Okay, go, yeah.
And to the Egyptian, the Mukhabarat wants your picture.
Okay, yalla, go.
Yeah? You know the Mukhabarat?
The
Mukhabarat.
No, I don't know.
You don't know?
I just speak English.
No?
Yeah, go, yalla.
Mukhabarat in Egypt will get your parents.
Go.
Does your father like his fingernails? They'll take them out one by one.
Yalla, روح منين? يلا, go.
Why should I go? Why should I go? Tell me why I should go. I'm standing here. I'm an American. I have free. It's a free country. It's not like Egypt.
What's he doing?
He says he's taking his picture to send it to that Mukhabarat so they'll torture his family. And he is President Barack Obama's national security advisor.
Did you rape your daughter like Muhammad?
I just speak English.
You only speak English?
No speak English. No.
You don't speak English?
Yes.
All right. Well, that's it. That just shows how ignorant you are. Because Muhammad was a rapist. It says in the Hadith. In your holy book.
Oh Muhammad.
What?
Oh Muhammad.
Muhammad, your prophet. You know who he is.
My prophet?
Yeah. He was a rapist. He raped Aisha. Does it say that in the Hadith or not? You know that?
I just speak English.
What?
No English.
You don't speak English? What do you speak?
What?
What do you speak? You speak Arabic? The language of the Quran? The Holy Quran?
Is he drunk?
We use
No, he does it routinely. There's multiple videos of him doing it on multiple days. That's why the guy started recording him.
The Quran as a toilet. Does it bother you?
What the? It's so.
He's a three-time.
Now we've all
recipient.
seen this footage.
Wow.
Of Seldowitz abusing a street
Hey, that's
vendor
a daytime.
in New York.
If we killed 4,000 Palestinian kids, you know what? It wasn't enough.
But who is Stuart Seldowitz, and what has he done
Wow.
for all of these years? Stuart Seldowitz, the 3-time recipient of the State Department's Superior Honor Award. He served in the State Department in their Office of Israel and Palestine Affairs as Deputy Director during the Bush years. This racist man had a role in managing the lie of the two-state solution. The two-state solution that was the subterfuge through which Palestinians have been continually battered by years of Israeli occupation. The PR drive around the world, the mirage for a future that never existed. Stuart Seldowitz, also National Security Advisor to President Obama, the same President Obama who led the NATO intervention of Libya, which saw the country bombed 7.
So he's going to put all his same politics in it, but he's just also reporting on it. That guy had major, major stuff. Did you see this? They blocked the Thanksgiving Day parade.
No, the Macy's.
Yeah.
Who are those guys? Are those at the Extinction?
I think it's more Palestinian. It's Palestinian stuff.
Capitalism.
It was climate stuff. Not that there's any difference with them now, like those people on that for
genocide.
Here's another view of it going on. It held up the whole parade, and it was on national television. Not that anybody watches national television anymore.
Yeah.
Insanity. There's this major law that's pushed through about like media literacy in New York, and it turns out like all they're doing is like getting a bunch of kids to become like internet commissars through this thing called the media literacy through K through 12
junior spies.
Yeah, and that's real. They're really actually doing that. Oh, here I have a comedy video that I wanted you to review, but not that it's that funny. But
greetings, welcome to the Sick Walrus. Riddle me this: have you ever moseyed your way on in here before?
No, actually.
Well, we are Silver Lake's newest craft cocktail club, but before we lick our way into your lucky list of libations for the afternoon, I'd love to tell you a bit about our backstory.
It's okay.
We were founded some years ago by a man named Rudy Tomjanovich.
Okay.
No one knows quite how old he is, but an epiphany came to him after he survived a grizzly bear incident in northern Iowa. He was forced to sustain himself on the sprigs of a rosemary branch and 1 ounce of orange bitters that he took with him everywhere he went. Today, we've placed that patience and passion into every polite potion that we prompt. So hickory dickory dock me this. Do you have a preference when it comes to potent potables?
Yeah, I'll just have
Maybe something to tickle your fancy, wet your whistle, align your aura, thrust down
I
your...
see what they're going for, but this isn't funny.
it just goes and goes like that. But I do kind of feel like it's a little bit like life coaching or whatever. Like you could imagine somebody who's a real deal helpful life coach, but then most of it's woo-woo stuff. But there's always half of me that kind of goes, man, if Flip could just fake this stuff, he could be a gajillionaire in half a minute.
I gotta figure out how to monetize things.
I've always said, like, the very first time I was looking at doing an MBA, and I went in and they said, we're gonna start off with the business ethics class. I'm like, is that where they teach you to not have them? And it's like, if I could just have, like, I don't think I'd need help with stuff if I could just not have the ethics. Like, I could go do that stuff pretty darn
No,
easy.
like they teach business ethics like the way that the Yellowstone Ranger teaches about bears. It's all about avoiding it.
Yes. But what they really have to do is like how to delude yourself into pretending you actually have them. Here, check this one out. You'll like this one. This one could zing me, except I'm somebody who didn't know I was thinking Irish until I was old, and I'm not going around pretending like, hey, I'm an old Irish. Although I just do say that I bet my ancestors weren't as treated well, you might have thought, but I don't walk around pretending I'm Irish in any way.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Frankie's Cultural Observations. Today, we're going to be analyzing Americans that think they're Irish. Americans that think they're Irish are definitely not Irish, but it's not their fault for getting mixed up. The tourism industry commissioned movies like The Quiet Man and Banshees of Inisherin to create a false memory and Bert from Wisconsin's Middle American consciousness, manipulating him into feeling a personal connection towards orange jumpers, shamrocks, and sheep. But on a positive note, he just found out that Ireland isn't actually in the UK. Ireland isn't actually in the UK. He just found out that Ireland isn't actually in the UK. In the modern world, Ireland has been platformed as a timeless, otherworldly tourist gaze, a playground for Americans to explore their Irish heritage in the land of 1,000 welcomes. It's the friendliest place in the world, as long as you're open carrying a credit card that you're willing to max out in the museum.
I'm from Connecticut in the States, but my father's from Tyrone, so I'm Irish.
Okay. Americans that think they're Irish are so cute. They're a naive, hopeful species that think a random Irish person is going to lead them to a pot of gold. But in the current climate, they'd be lucky to find a pot to piss in. The gold is urine. On the global level, Ireland is being airbrushed into a place that transcends national identity, cleaning up the colonial wound in the hopes that it doesn't go gangrene before St. Patty's Day, when the busloads of Minnesota natives will come here and start looking for a place that sells green Guinness. These American tourists live action role play as Irish people, and they do a pretty successful job until they open their mouths and ask you for directions to the Book of Kelly's.
We know all about the fact that y'all aren't part of the UK.
Oh, you know that?
Yeah,
Oh, okay,
we
good.
watched a Netflix special on it right before we came.
Oh, is that you found out from Netflix?
To get in touch with our Irish.
The way he just gets the people to come talk like goobers, but it's pretty funny stuff.
That is some good stuff.
This is Ireland's getting fed up with immigrants. Let's watch a.
That's the thing I saw that exists in the UK that was interesting is that they have Irish American bars, and that's what they call them.
Really?
They call them Irish American bars. Yeah,
that's funny. Oh, goodness gracious. I mean, that's one of the things I found out. Like when I found out like how Irish I was, it was shocking because like you come across anybody else who has like 20% Irish and their whole house is green and
yeah.
Irish whatever stuff on their walls type of deal. Okay, check. This is stupid. It says scary how different male versus female ducks sound. There's a male duck.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine. You just can't.
It's so dumb. So this stuff, I think, some of the most impressive musicianship there is out there. Like, watch this. What this guy does. I'll buy that song. This one's amazing. That sounds so human.
This guy's a genius.
Yeah. I would genuinely listen to these songs. Killer stuff. So there's all sorts of internet trend of leftists converting to Islam.
Oh,
Bin Laden.
Sinead O'Connor started it.
I just did my first salah from
You hear that?
help,
Yeah.
and I literally started crying at the end.
That I basically, when I did that video, became Muslim, and I'm gonna cry. I'm gonna cry. And I'm serious about becoming Muslim. I'm very serious. I was a devout atheist before, but I've done so much research on the Muslim faith, and it's so beautiful.
So I want to know if I'm meant to be a Muslim before I tell my family. And I have decided that I do want to be Muslim.
Do you guys notice anything different about me today? Hold it. Anything?
Wow.
Guys.
I'm a Muslim today.
Wow.
Yeah, it's real. Like they're really doing it.
Of fresh and salt water. Yet between them is a barrier they never cross. That's true, but when was this? I thought this was 1,400 years ago. Wait, how was that in there?
I haven't done my shahada yet, but every single time that I have to give you guys a new Gaza update, I get closer and closer to Islam. I don't have anything else that's bringing me peace right now but the Quran.
Wow.
Jane says, Kara going Muslim, guys. Ooh, I could see that.
Yeah.
Ooh,
If, I mean, she would be a follower, but if enough people went that way, she would go that way.
Yeah. It's unreal, but
That's crazy.
yeah. So, not a ton of other videos. I wanted to talk like what food did you like? Like what English food did you like? Well, you said the kidney beans and steak pies, but like what was a typical day? Like what do you?
So, I mean, because actually didn't eat as much crazy stuff as I had planned on. I did get to try a few things I'd never tried before. There was a West African restaurant. It's funny because like it was only afterward that I thought about it that I realized like just how adventurous I am, because it was not far from the hotel I was staying at. But like you know how like in a lot of like I mean it's probably in Mexico City, you know how like the shops all have like the crinkly metal doors that you pull down at night, you know, over all the doors and windows.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this like little corner restaurant where the metal door was halfway up, and behind that you could see that the actual door was completely off its hinges, and there was a sign that just said, "We are open, please use side door." And the side door was very obviously the back door because he walked past mops and stuff. But I got to try something I've only ever read about, jollof rice, just a West African dish. It's literally just rice cooked with tomatoes and spices and fish. And the fish had fins and skin on it and all the things you hate. But like other than that, like, yeah, there was a place not far, real close to my hotel that was a Turkish place. That was actually a chain. And like my first day there, I got lamb kebab, and that was
But I'm saying you're
fantastic.
still going for like most
Really
of the
good.
immigrant food, which is kind of how you eat around here.
Yeah,
But
no, but, like, so
English, like you said, the
so
kidney,
I had fish and chips a couple of
the fish and
times,
chips.
and I love that. But like that's one of the things that cracked me up is that because like I told you, it's funny that you know almost nowhere was just fish and chips. It was all kebabs and fish and chips, or pizza and fish and chips, or Chinese and fish and chips.
Yeah.
And it makes sense because like you've already got the fry or whatever. But like I was thinking about it, like there's a place that I saw. I didn't even go in there, but it was like Cantonese cuisine and English cuisine. And I just thought about like, you could do the joke. It's like, well, tell me about the Cantonese cuisine. It's like, well, we have the wok, and it's a special pan that we have over this extremely hot fire. And we start with some peanut oil, to which we add some fermented soybean paste and some sesame
They were
oil
selling it to
and
you
some
like
fresh scallions and some dried squid and pickled cabbage. And we finish everything. And then it's like, okay, well, tell me about the English cuisine. It's like, well, we put the fish in the batter, and then we put the batter in the oil. And then and this is the thing that is true. Do you want salt? Is a question they ask.
Nuh-uh. Like you might have it saltless.
Do you want
Like
salt?
there's a little salt and then you add salt, or there's no salt.
There's no salt, and
Oh
they
my
ask
God.
you do you want salt, and they will add salt if you ask for salt. Like
Oh
that's
my
how
God.
plain the fish and chips is. But I liked it because it was real Atlantic cod.
It was good.
Yeah, I mean it's a big greasy piece of fish, So like I like it, but it's not something you could eat all the time, even me. But like, yeah, no,
Well, if you got fish and chips here, would you be
they're
like,
not the
it's
same.
not a real thing?
Not the same. Like for one thing, it's a giant piece of fish. The other thing here is that because they're like they had real Atlantic cod. Yeah, the fish was better. It was a bigger piece of fish for sure. And yeah, I don't know how to describe it. There's just something.
What's the chips? Like
The chips are just bigger chunks. Like they're
It's just potatoes.
almost every time you get fish. Yeah, it's just potatoes. The chips, yeah, they're pretty just standard.
So like, what were the munchies like if you went to like whatever the equivalent of a 7-Eleven is, or?
So I did bring back a big sampler pack of potato chips. They had like
Are they
the
weird?
sampler. Yeah, they're
It's-
weird. Like so, the sampler pack I brought back is like I took them to work, but the weird flavors are there's cheese and onion, roasted chicken, prawn cocktail,
What the?
and smoky bacon.
Oh. Did you
I
do
bought.
much pastry sampling?
So there's a place called Greg's there. Greg's is like this chain of like I don't know, it's coffee, sausage rolls, like it's like steak pies, sausage rolls, coffee, and they're all over the place. And they were good, like just totally greasy. But like we got Greg's a couple of times. I had that's a typical English sausage roll. But yeah, I didn't have all that much English food. Because like one thing I intended to do, it just never worked out, was to have a Sunday roast with Yorkshire pudding. But yeah, it just didn't work out.
Did you have
Sunday, I
pudding?
just ended up doing other things. No, I
No
don't think I
pudding?
did. Like English pudding? No, I don't think I did. Yeah, because again, because the time I spent with my kid, like my son, like I said, he was pretty plain. So we just
What's he
ate
eat?
plain
What's his
things.
average day?
Like, I mean, I don't know about like at home. I think but yeah, he eats a lot of plain stuff, like what they call Mexican, which is like Relief Society Mexican food. Yeah, I don't know. That's what we had when we were out and about. I don't know what he eats at home. Like he went shopping a couple times, he just got loaves of bread and typical young people stuff, simple sandwich stuff, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, it was so different there. Like, one thing though is that like it was so hard to get just a cup of cold water. In fact, they had restaurants there, like they advertised like American style restaurants, and I thought about doing like comedy YouTube series about like we're gonna do the American restaurant test. And the American restaurant test is I walk in, I say, I would like a glass of ice water. And if anything other than a glass of ice water appearing happens, like you are not an American restaurant because
Did
you
they
can get ice
do the
water in
ice
an American
there, or are
restaurant.
they different?
No, like it was hard to get ice water. Like I think there was one place.
I
Like
think
there
that's
was,
every country in the world but the U.S.
yeah. No, like there was one place that we went to, like when like his girlfriend was like him and kind of a picky eater. So we went to a place that was like I can't remember what it was called, but it was like American Olive Garden kind of thing. You could tell it was like an English Olive Garden is what I mean. It was kind of like a chain, sort of American Italian place. And then I'm like, yeah, like when it came to beverage, I'm like, can I get ice water? And they're like, yeah, no problem. And that was the only place. Everybody else was like, nope, you can get bottled water, you can get sparkly water, or you can pay for. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing. It's like the thing that I do not like about the UK. One big giant downside for me about the UK is that they put sucralose in fucking everything.
Oh,
There's like
really?
3 times I'm like, oh, like
Wouldn't have guessed that.
mango drink. That sounds good. I like mango drink, and I take a sip and just nope. It's because the thing that they do there that's
Why did they
different
do
is
that?
well, the thing that's obnoxious is that because like in America, like there's drink and then there's sugar-free drink, and like they never mix the things. It's either sugar or sugar-free. Whereas in the UK, most like soft drinks are a blend of sugar and sugar substitutes, usually sucralose. And like I confirmed it there, like, I was with my kid, like, we stopped somewhere like a Greg's or whatever on the highway to fill up with gas and get drinks. I'm like, oh, that looks good. And I take a sip and I hand it to my kid and I'm like, read the ingredients. There's sucralose in this. And he's like, yep, there it
That's
is.
hereditary the way you taste it, isn't it? Does he taste it the same
Yeah,
way?
he doesn't taste it. Like he doesn't have that problem. He
Hmm.
was surprised that I had that. He was impressed that I could tell instantly if there was sucralose in something, and it is instantaneous. And like that's the thing, like because that caught me is that like for example, there's a drink called Vimto. It's Muslim Coca-Cola basically. It was invented in Pakistan by an English guy, and it's blackcurrant and spice fruit drink soda. And in America, it's just soda, and it's made of sugar. And while I was in England, I'm like, oh, Vimto, I remember that from home. And I grabbed it. In fact, I remember specifically it was real close to Ringo Starr's childhood home because I walked there and I took a picture of that. And that's a shitty neighborhood. That's a scary place. But I went into like the little magazine shop and I saw Vimto, went out on the street, took a sip, and was like immediately like, oh shit, there's sucralose in this. And like, yep, they put it in everything. It's so obnoxious.
Was there any indication that the Beatles new homeowners even knew what place they had, or that it was like
Yeah.
exclusive, or
So the Ringo house was empty. Like you could tell that it was being refurbished. Like it was filled with tarps and paint and stuff. Paint cans. George Harrison's home is a home. Somebody lives there. Yeah. Paul's house, I think somebody lives there. John's house, nobody lives there. It's like an empty museum type thing. Although it just says no access. Well, it's not a museum. Like I think it might become one. Like there was a sign there that said, historical house, no access anytime. But yeah, like somebody lives in George's house. I don't think anybody lives in Paul or Ringo's house, but yeah, George's house. That's just yeah. I felt awkward taking a picture there.
There weren't other people around?
No, not at George's house. So like when I went to Paul and John's, it was funny. Like I ended up just kind of naturally chasing. There was like a cab that did tours. It was like the Beatles tour cab, and I just
Like a
happened to
Hollywood
be
bus?
there. Yeah, and I just happened to be there when the guy was taking people around, and like I followed him. Like I went to Paul's, and then like I went to John's, and there they were at both places. And yeah, like I sent you guys the pictures and commented on it. Like it cracks me up that like John was the biggest whiner about like equality and social issues, and he grew up by far in the nicest house in the nicest part of town. Because like
always goes.
Yeah, because Ringo, like that place was shit. In fact, like when I told people, they're like, "Oh, what did you do today?" I was like, "Oh, I went to the Albert Docks and I walked to Toxteth, and because Toxteth is the neighborhood." And they were like, "Oh, you went to Toxteth? Like, oh, you don't go there." Like, in fact, like I remember walking down the street there. Like I was just walking on the sidewalk, and there was like an entire window frame with the glass smashed out of it lying on the sidewalk. And I like looked up, and like all of the windows in the building were intact, and there was like no evidence of like workmen around or anything. It was just a window frame,
weird,
blocking the sidewalk. It was a
how's that
shitty part of
spelled?
town. Huh?
How's that spelled? Toxteth.
Toxteth.
Oh, I was expecting some like weird English spelling of something.
No, but like, yeah, that one, like, I ended up walking there because that's the one that was closest to the city center. Because there was one day in particular that I just spent listening to the Beatles and walking around central Liverpool. Um, and like I hiked around a lot that day. I covered a lot of miles. Um, but yeah, like I went to Ringo's house just that day, and then it was a couple days later that I used the car
Yes,
to visit all the other houses.
I missed that picture, like whenever you took that one. But
Oh
it's up
yeah,
there somewhere.
but that's the also I have to disagree with Jared about Ringo being the luckiest guy. Like, no, Ringo was
Ringo was
totally unique.
important.
Yeah, no, like especially like I mean, I remember particularly just on like walking around Liverpool listening to the Beatles and on Ticket to Ride. Ringo's drumming on Ticket to Ride. No other drummer would have done that. They would have just done like a basic, 4/4 rock beat, I think. But if you listen to the drums on that, and it's got this like weird kind of syncopated drag thing to it that is totally unique. Like, yeah, there's a lot of things that made Ringo special, but not least of which was that he was like he really drummed by feel. He wasn't just a keep the rhythm guy. He was a very musical drummer. But
Yeah, there's that. And then I heard tell that one of the things about him that even in the days of super drugs or whatever is that he was a machine, and he would just be there at the drums for them
Yeah.
to start messing with the thing at any old time. And people can't underestimate how important that must have been to be prolific, as
Oh,
prolific as they
yeah.
were. Because like you come across any drummer in the wild, and usually drummers, it kind of goes with the territory. They're ADHD types, and
Yeah.
they don't want to do the thing again or hold just the plain beat or just do the thing, especially not all day long. And
Yeah.
I guarantee that helped them pump out songs. I guarantee it.
Absolutely.
Do you see this? The Book of Mormon is $16 on was
What?
$17 on Audible, and that's down 43%.
Narrated by full cast.
Yeah.
Is that why? It's I guess
Maybe
it's
that's what it is.
It's
But Luke
29
says it could
hours?
be. That's how long it is? Ugh. Luke, this is both Jacob and Luke Hansen saying it should be free. Oh goodness me.
Man, that-
I told people out of school that you aren't the highest on Paul McCartney. Does that still hold true, or?
Yeah, no, like I mean, especially post Beatles Paul McCartney.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
he used
I
to
agree with
joke
that.
like
There's like
yeah.
2 songs I really like, and then nothing.
No, during the Beatles time, like I don't know, the Long and Winding Road is a bit of a drag. Just kind of like
Yeah,
I
I
don't
know you hate that one.
yeah. But other than
Although
that, like
you know that he hates that one. I
oh
heard a whole interview of him talking about he hated the production on it and thought it was over sappy. And
yeah, no, I know he didn't like Phil Spector's treatment of all
yeah,
of
Phil
that stuff.
Spector doing what he had to
Yeah.
say.
No, but, like especially the post Beatles stuff in particular, Paul is just awful. Like you can
I
really
like
tell.
Jet and Maybe I'm Amazed.
Yeah. No,
I
like
think
you
that's
really
it.
kind of get that thing like somebody
Band on the Run drives me
those
like I
Beatles
feel Band on the Run was a rehashing ripoff of Abbey Road, and he just said, "Oh, I figured out that if you don't have a finish to your song, just tag it with a bunch of other songs, and
yeah.
you get called a genius."
Yeah, no, I really think there was something with I mean, especially with all the Beatles post Beatles, but particularly with Paul. And I think it was something happened with them and it happened to George Lucas. And it's something that Doodles mentioned last time I was hanging out with Doodles. He was talking about Freddie Mercury. That some interviewer was talking about Freddie Mercury's solo albums and how they didn't seem to land as well as Queen stuff. And that Freddie Mercury made the point of when I'm in Queen, I'm nobody special. And those guys are willing to tell me no. When I
Yeah.
was making my own album, I was Freddie Mercury and nobody would tell me no. And I really think that was the case with the Beatles, like with Paul McCartney post the Beatles. Because John Lennon, George, those guys were
Paul
willing to say
McCartney just
no.
needed no's. He needed
Yeah.
Like George Lucas is one of the only directors ever who benefited from studio interference.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the thing that you can tell with George Lucas is that like George Lucas in the 70s and 80s was just a guy, and people were willing to say like, no, there's a smarter way to do this. Whereas like when George Lucas owned the studio, the company, the land, everything.
I guarantee you, he
Yeah.
got studio notes from pros at that time who said, "Show that, don't say that." And
Yeah.
then later, he didn't get that ever again. Say
Yeah,
that, don't
exactly.
show that.
And I think that's really the case. Like even George, like George's solo stuff is interesting because it's a mixed bag. Some of it is really, really top notch, but then a lot of it is like, oh, okay, especially in the '80s. Some of that stuff got really phoned in.
Yeah,
But
I
yeah,
mean, he did so much after, and I mean, I can't. I guess I can't say that I've listened to all of it. Have
no,
you?
I think I maybe one time through, but even that, I think there's a lot of them that I didn't even make it all the way through a record.
I wouldn't be surprised if I looked it up, and yes, I had at least once in my life listened to all of them, but at the same time, I don't know that I have.
Yeah,
did
they
so
don't
much
stick in your
crap.
memory at all. No, like in the airport on one of these trips, I don't even remember where. Like I decided to try listening to one of the the George Harrison solo albums from the '80s. And I remember one song being like, "Yeah, okay, that's kind of interesting," but like I can't recall any of it now. It doesn't
I
stick
was
in your
looking
brain
up.
at all.
Were we looking up? It was on here. We were looking up the that he got accused of plagiarism for that one song, "Sweet Lord." We
Oh
looked it
no,
up.
he
It was like
lost
an
the
old
case. Yeah,
gospel song, and then
it's "He's So Fine" by the Chiffons. It's so close. It's so
yeah,
close. No, like I think he ended up paying out on that. Like he just, I mean, he copped it. He's like, maybe it was subconscious. Like he didn't cop to saying like I stole it, but like he paid out on it because he was like, oh yeah, that sounds an awful lot like the same song. That's a tough one. Like there's a lot of those where it's like, they're so close. Like I mean that Stairway to Heaven thing that just happened, where like those guys lost their case. Led Zeppelin won that case, I mean. But like when you listen to the guys who claim that like, oh, they ripped off Stairway, it's like, yeah, that is really close.
yeah. The one I did pull up, and I tend to agree with is Coldplay. Vi, I think Steve Vai. You
Oh
listen to
yeah.
those songs because like it's not just like the chords and the beat, but there's also a melody line that goes right with it. Only Vi's
Yeah.
is with the guitar melody line, and I yeah, that seems a
Well, it's like the Flaming Lips fight test
it was
and Cat
Satriani, not Vi.
Stevens.
Oh, which one's the Flaming Lips one?
So Flaming Lips fight test compared
Uh-huh.
to Cat Stevens' father.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another one. They lost that one. They ended up having to pay royalties on that.
Mm. It's Neil Breen's birthday.
That's funny. I like that he
Mm.
says that he's not 65. I guess he's 64. But he's definitely 60s.
Oh, Neil Breen.
I
What a
am much
funny
younger.
man. Louisville manifesto shooter said he was shooting because he wanted to get upper class white people and get more gun control.
Is that official or is that
It was
fake
official.
news?
Yeah, that's his book, notebook and stuff. Not many people heard about this one, but he did it. It was back in April.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
Mm. I hardly remember it, but the thing's
There's
up
so
now.
many.
Charlie Brown's. This one comes up every year. I think I've heard
Oh,
Charlie
yeah.
Brown's Thanksgiving being called. Franklin is seated alone in a sagging lawn chair at the side of the table. To our eyes today, it seems jarring. It's so dumb. This one, I've heard that one a bunch. I've heard this one's come up a lot over there. But it's from NPR. I guess that's kind of why. Why do I still get surprised? Just why do
Yeah.
I still assume that they have some sort of modicum of professionalism? I shouldn't. Eat the Rich includes Taylor Swift.
There you go, Kara.
Or Sam's the one's in.
Or
Well, I guess
Sam,
both
that's
of
right,
them. They
Sam.
both think that. Yeah. Lame-os. But they won't ever be interested in us because we're incels.
Why is this camera constantly going out of focus? But whatever.
I don't know. I don't know that I have much other stuff to pull on and look
No,
at.
that's all
Unless
right.
we've
This
got
is a
more
bit of a...
England to talk about.
Oh, I could talk about England for ages. There's
When's
a
the
lot of
next
cool
trip?
stuff. I mean, hopefully sometime next year. We'll see, I guess. Kind of depends. I'm going to be paying off this one for a while. But yeah, no, it's a lot of those things where it's like, kind of like the first time you ever go to Lagoon, you're like, that was fun, but next time I'm going to do it a lot smarter.
Like what? Why?
Oh, just like for example, London. Not going to drive into London ever again. Taking the train next time I go there. But yeah, and also just like I'm trying to think of it all. I don't know. I'm still kind of
How
jet
was
lagged.
the church, Jacob? Asked how actually was it?
I mean, so it was more full than I expected it to be. Like it was like not a packed house, but there's a lot of people there. Oh, so one thing that was different, like I thought about sticking around for, but I just didn't want to. I just didn't want to do that much church. But after church, like they announced the meat and munch, and they had snacks.
What?
And exactly when I'm like, well, wait a
Cheerios?
second.
Cheerios and baggies?
No, like proper snacks. They had all kinds of proper snacks. And I was just so surprised because I'm like, wait a second, like why isn't this a thing everywhere in Mormonism that you have sacrament meeting, then you have the hour of classes, and then you have meat and munch in the cultural hall. But yeah, that was there. But other than that, it was pretty typical church. Like I say, it was the Remembrance Day, so that was all geared toward veteran stuff. I mean, for me, it was kind of fun because like one of the talks was a Brazilian guy, and he told the story of the smoking snakes. So that just made me happy as Brazilian patriotism guy. Do you remember that one?
No.
You should look up the image. I don't know how to share it though. Every time I do this, I have to learn how to do it. But
Christopher says Paul
in-
Simon was good alone. The problem is Paul Simon was always alone. Garfunkel was just a pot smoker who had a good voice, but that was all Paul Simon all along, writing wise.
Let's see. Can I share this image?
I listened like a whole bunch of things about like how frustrated they got. The only reason they ever broke up is Paul Simon got sick and tired of him being just lazy and sew up the stuff, and all he had to do was show up and sing, and he couldn't be counted on for it.
There we go. Am I sharing that? But yeah, no, it's just it's slightly cute story, especially if you're Brazilian. But in the early part of World War II, Brazil was neutral. They maintained neutrality and they continued trading with the Axis and the Allied powers. But by 1941, the Germans had been sinking Brazilian ships. And so in the early part of the war, there was a saying in Brazil that said that snakes would smoke pipes before Brazil entered the war against the Germans. And snakes will smoke is like the Portuguese equivalent of when pigs fly. So when the Brazilians entered the war, they called themselves the Smoking Snakes, and this was the patch that the Brazilian Expeditionary Force wore
awesome.
in
That'd
the
be something
battle.
with a tattoo for.
Yeah, no, it's a great little image. But yeah, so they said, here we are. We're the snakes that smoke. We're here to fight Italians. But yeah, no, it was really cool. I loved it. I could live there for sure. Like, there's some things that are slightly obnoxious. Like, it is weird just how packed in everything is, especially like lots of old buildings. So I was bumping my head on a lot of things. All the bathrooms are tiny. And then, so that's the other thing. Is like a lot of people would hate the weather. Like, I mean, I didn't get sick of it. Like, it's cold and rainy, and I'm fine with that. I didn't care. But I think for a lot of people that gets weird. Because yeah, like when I was there, like I encountered like a grand total of maybe 30 minutes of dry pavement. Like other than that, it was just wet. It was either raining, had just finished raining, or it was about to rain. That's how it felt. There was one funny thing I thought was funny in central Liverpool. There's a bombed out church, which is literally a bombed out church. It was an old church, and all that's left there is the stone. And so all the wood and all the glass are gone. And it just cracked me up because the bombed out church has an emergency fire exit. I just thought, like, are you guys trying to be funny, or is this just that famous British bureaucracy again? Like it already burned, guys. Like nothing. There's nothing left that can burn in here, so we don't need a fire exit. But they have one.
Blue Meanie says on his mission to Southern Georgia, the wards had full-blown cooked lunch after church each fast Sunday. Did you guys have to travel far to church? Was that like one of the places people had to drive 2 hours to go to church type stuff? But
The church was pretty close to where I was staying. It was 1.2 miles from where I was staying, so it was really close. Getting there was no problem.
Jane Cobb says on his mission, the members stuffed them too at church. I didn't see any food in Mexico, man, at the church.
Yeah.
Did you see any cute birds? How do they call the ladies over there in England? Any
I don't know.
You didn't even look around.
No, I looked around. There's definitely some attractive English girls for
It'd
sure.
probably be, you got to remember, just being like tall and having an accent and straight teeth, like you're
top
10 percentile, man.
It was weird, like being conscious of your accent. That's something I never really felt.
Were you tall there?
Oh yeah. I mean, like, English people aren't short at all, but like, no, I'm taller there than I was here on average, I'd say, for sure. Especially like, again, like I felt tall in a lot of the old buildings, like in Yorkshire, everything was old, and I bumped my head on a lot of stuff.
Is the English teeth thing a thing of yesteryear, or is that still real?
I don't know, because like they have the NHS. It's one of those things where like you feel like you see it a lot, but if I think about it, it's probably ultimately kind of a wash between America and the States, but I don't know.
You didn't notice any English teeth?
No, I don't think so. It didn't really stand out. I don't know. Alrighty, where are we at?
Well, not much else unless there's other English stuff. It's a lazy Thanksgiving. I got nowhere to be in the morning. But I've also ran out of stuff unless you want to see other. I could pull. I have other wacky. Okay, here's one. Watch this. This guy started a male OnlyFans page and then came to pay off his sister's student loan with the money.
So my OnlyFans paycheck came in today, and I'm going to use 20 grand of it to pay off my sister's student loans. Because why the fuck not?
Anthony, you're going to break the door!
That is your student loans. Paid in full by my penis.
Let's see what you did for your sister. Did you ever think you should take that fucking money and buy your own fucking house?
So my first OnlyFans paycheck came in today, and I'm going to.
Is it real though?
I don't know.
I kind of.
I want to show the.
I just want to throw in the 20,000.
I want to show the. I want to show the fake Imagine Dragons band, but I can't.
Oh, that was brilliant! I watched that. I love that.
Trust putting up Saturday Night Live stuff, even if it's off TikTok.
Yeah.
They're
always fucking with us.
The church implements important landscape pilot program to cut.
But they're capitalists. Why would they care about water use? God said to hoard the money. John Larson said so. John Larson told us that Mormons are only capitalists.
What the heck was this post? There's another Christian movement that's changing our politics. It has nothing to do with whiteness or nationalism.
I like how they just have to. They think like they have to explain that. We're like, there's a Christians aren't necessarily white nationalists. Did you know?
Did you watch John Larson on?
No, I didn't see the Roundup. No, I didn't watch the most recent one.
Did you know? No, it's a Mormon News Roundup. It was over on a different channel, but
yeah.
Basically, it turns out the capitalism and the church is capitalist, and the capitalism is the problem.
Oh, huh. He's not a communist. He's just a socialist. Isn't that what he said?
He's so obviously like a commie.
Yeah.
Jezebel, the feminist media is shut down. Yeah, that's just another in a long line. And another
one. I like the
Transgender
Jezebel
people
curve.
can
I'm
get
still laughing at
baptized
that.
in the Catholic Church now.
I'm still laughing at the Jezebel curve.
The Jezebel, oh yeah, the Jezebel curve
The
from
Jezebel curve.
Oh man,
That's so brilliant.
yeah.
Alrighty, I do work tomorrow.
So you got to get and go. I'm glad that they weren't weird to you about coming back.
Oh, so that's the other thing I like. So much about traveling is weird. But one thing I thought was strange is that, like, so, when I got to Salt Lake Airport and get to security, first thing I do is take off my shoes. But coming back, I didn't have to take off my shoes. Like, I had to go through security in Manchester, and then I had to go through security again in Paris. And neither time did they make me take off my shoes. So just in America, the shoes is the thing. But also, Charles de Gaulle Airport is fucking wacky huge.
Really?
And, well, it's also really poorly designed because, like, I'm trying to remember. It was I didn't have a lot of sleep. Like, you land in Paris, get off the plane, go into the terminal, you go down some stairs, then walk a ways and go up some stairs. Then you go across a tramway and then you catch a train. Then you get off the train and you go down some stairs and then you go up some stairs. Then you go through security. Then you go to the terminal where you go down some stairs and then up some stairs. Then you get to the gate. Then you go down some stairs and then you get on the bus. And then the bus takes you to other stairs and then you go up the stairs and then there's an airplane. And so that was kind of weird.
Yeah. Well, let's end off with some Stephen Wright.
Oh, this guy's the best.
I'd kill for a Nobel Peace Prize. Borrow money from a pessimist. They don't expect it back. Half the people you know are below average. And that was just true. That's a whole math truth right there. Although, if you do the female whole math, it's just 80% of the people you know are below average. 90%. 99% of lawyers give the rest a bad name. That's good for anything. 99% of feminists give the rest a bad name.
Yeah.
82.7% of all statistics are made up on the spot. A conscience is what hurts when all your other parts feel so good. My favorite is a clear conscience is usually a sign of a bad memory. That's probably just true of me.
Yeah.
If you want the rainbow, you got to put up with the rain. All those who believe in psychokinesis, raise my hand. The early bird may get the worm, but the second mouse gets the cheese. I almost had a psychic girlfriend, but she left me before we met. Okay, so what's the speed of dark? How do you tell when you're out of invisible ink? If everything seems to be going well, you have obviously overlooked something. That's not what I want to say.
Depression is merely anger without enthusiasm. When everything is coming your way, you're in the wrong lane. That's a good one. Ambition is a poor excuse for not having enough sense to be lazy. Hard work pays off in the future. Laziness pays off now.
Yeah.
I intend to live forever. So far, so good. If Barbie's so popular, why do you have to buy her friends? Eagles may soar, but weasels don't get sucked into jet engines. That was the thing that happened just a few months ago in America, is that a guy got sucked into a jet engine. Did you even hear about that?
No.
Barely cracked the news. But yeah, a
In
guy,
the
I think it was,
air or on the ground?
on the ground. I think it was in a Texas. I think it was in a Texas airport, if I remember, like a commercial jet. Some guy got too close when the engine was spooling up and got slurped up.
That's insane.
What happens if you get scared half to death twice? My mechanic told me I couldn't repair your brakes, so I made your horn louder. Why do psychics have to ask you your name? If at first you don't succeed, destroy all evidence that you tried. Oh,
Is this more of the same, or did you just where was it? It was right here, 26.
A
The
conclusion is a
conclusion
place
is a place.
where you got tired of thinking. Experience is something you don't get until just after you need it. The hardness of butter is proportional to the softness of bread. That's true. To steal ideas from one person is plagiarism. To steal from many is research.
That's true.
The problem with the gene pool is that there is no lifeguard.
That's also kind of true, like of songs, because I mean,
Oh,
one of the
yeah.
ways that I mean, I'll just open a minute. One way I go writing songs is I'll pick 15 different kind of ideas I like together from a bunch of different things, and then smack them into one thing, and
Yeah.
it makes a different sound. But,
Yeah. I mean, there's only 12 notes in the scale.
yeah.
It's like when I was last time I was talking to Doodles and his friend who is a teacher of music, and they're both into classical music. And they're talking about the whole tuning thing, like the scale and tuning and how that all works. And Jeff said something I thought was kind of funny. He was talking about how like the octave, like harmonically, the octave is the speed of light of music. Like there's just no going past the octave harmonically. Like it just ends up being, another, whatever. Like after the octave of C, you're just getting into another D. And I just thought it was funny how he put that. Where it's like, yeah, there's like this physical limitation to harmonics, and there's just no getting around it.
That's crazy.
The colder the X-ray table, the more of your body's required to be on it.
The problem with the gene pool is there's no lifeguard.
If your car could travel at the speed of light, would your headlights work?
That's actually how they like came up with the idea of the speed of light, wasn't it?
I think something like that, yeah.
Yeah, they were talking about trains, and then the train. I think it was Einstein talking about light shooting up past the train.
Probably.
The sooner fall behind, the more time you'll have to catch up. The colder the X-ray table, the more of your body is required to be on it. Everyone has a photographic memory. Some just don't have film. If at first you don't succeed, skydiving is not for you. If your car could travel at the speed of light, would your headlights work? Yeah.
Charlie
All right.
Dog.
What's that?
Charlie Dog is being patient.
I walked
today.
his butt off all day. He could probably go for more, but he's over there tuckered out. I took him to the dog park and walked him for a few hours, and
I was a little confused
because I
that he
had
wasn't
the
bugging you.
day off. Yeah, he's tuckered. Although he is a border collie, he could probably go again. I looked at him. Crap.
No, outside. Did you? I sent you that article. That's touching, sad. But you remember that when I said like they found
the man.
Yeah, the guy. They found the corpse of a guy who's been dead for months. He went on a hike and died months ago. And his Jack Russell was still going.
Yeah, I saw the doggy. She's a.
They had a picture of the doggo?
Yeah, I can pull it for you right here. Hold on one second.
Charlie Dog.
Is he sticking his head up now?
Yeah.
Yeah, now he sent something. You already had like 4 hours today, probably longer. Where was it? I'll pull it up. Hold on. Here he is.
What Navy plane got grounded?
What is that?
Jane Cobb said, "Did you guys see the Navy plane got grounded?"
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that.
There she is.
Oh.
Actually, when they first got her, she was real thin. They have some pictures of that. I don't know if it's on
Yeah.
here.
No, they mentioned that she lost half of her weight. Oh. Touching music. We didn't need the touching music to be touched. Freaking Jack Russells.
Cute little thing. Do you see this in the corner? Does it show that?
Yes.
So in the ex-Mormon world, there's an ex-Mormon 2.0. They suddenly made like a bunch of like these group chats. And I haven't like opted out of them yet, but they like light up my notifications. But look, one of the subjects is drugs in ex-Mormon 2.0. I haven't even looked at it. Let me go look at it right now without
drugs
clicking on it. But
yeah,
man,
don't
the year
share
left
your stuff.
checking your birthday gets longer. Phasmophobia? Phasmophobia? What's phasmophobia? I don't know what they're talking about. Anyway,
Yeah, I don't know
bunch of
what
people talking about drugs. That's one of the subjects. They have drugs. They have exmo and polyamorous, gamers, LGBTQ, parenting as an exmo, and single and looking to mingle. And I only haven't opted out because I kind of expected like I could see a dumpster fire in there, but see, then there's stuff like this. Okay, look, this is a post that's inside of there. So I see this stuff all the time, like in kind of exmo or whatever lefty world. Like they kind of like they think that we're all open and super open to sexuality, and then they all of a sudden like put something like this, and I just don't know how people in that world don't ever feel like they're a split second away from a rape not a rape, like
Yeah.
an accusation of sexual harassment. Like,
Yeah,
how do you
exactly.
even like dare to try to be something like, here's a funny one? Like now 7 or 8 other women on there could suddenly say, this is sexual harassment.
Trigger warning, erection joke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, looks like
Alrighty.
ready for more walkies now.
Walkie dog.
You go woke up and now you want walkies. Well, alrighty. Maybe next week everybody's back around. We'll chit chat.
Yeah.
Maybe Jared will want to know more about the alcohols there and stuff. And
Yeah.
English alcohols.
Mhm.
Anyway, thanks for chilling, everybody who did on this lazy Thanksgiving.
Lazy Thanksgiving. Alrighty.
Already gone,
See you.
dudes.
Bye, Charlie dogs.
See you, everyone.